Fill her up.
You're listening to the Gas Digital Network.
With Robb Flynn.
What up? What up? What's up? I forgot to put my microphone in front of me. What the fuck, dude? What in the fucking fuck, dude? My microphone was way over here. I had to grab that shit. I was like, whoa. Don't forget the mic, bro. Don't forget the mic, bro. Yes. Got a good podcast for you today. Man, it's a long one. So get ready to dig in. I bet you the super chat that goes live when it goes live is not going to last till the end. You're going to all fade. You're going to be like, it's 3 a.m. I can't listen to this anymore. It's midnight. I got to go to bed. I got to go to work tomorrow or school or whatever you do. Or whatever you do. Yes, sir. COYLE. The DOC. You know it. The DOC. Kicking on the podcast. We go deep. We go all over the place. All over the place. We go through God Forbid. We go through Bad Wolves. We go through new stuff, old stuff. He dips his toe into the Spotify Joe Rogan controversy, for God's sakes. I haven't dipped my foot there yet. I haven't dipped my toes in. I've just been like, I don't really care that much either way. But he did, and it was cool. I like that he does that. He definitely talks. He'll talk politics. I think at this point everybody knows what my politics are, and I don't need to really talk about it anymore. Kind of been talked to death. I'm tired of it. I'm so fucking sick of politics. God. I'm fucking burned out. Fucking all I want to do is talk about sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Beer and pussy. That's what I want to talk about. And fucking metal. And that's it. And music. Not even just metal. It could be music too. My son had a lyric video for one of his new rappers that he likes, one of his mumble rappers. I came in and I saw it and I spit that shit out. I was like, I can rap as good as him, motherfucker. He's like, get out. Get out. He was laughing though. See, I know he thinks it's funny. He my oldest son always tries to keep a straight face. But I can see he's laughing on the inside. I'm just like, don't try and be a teenager. I'll try to be cool, motherfucker. I'm funny. You know it. You know I got some flows. I got those $1,000 flows. He was not amused. That's how all the rappers rap now. Gotta have this it's all in threes. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. 1, 2, 3, 1. You know. That's where the rhyme falls. That's how you know, man. That's where the rhyme falls. By where the count is. Like Biggie Smalls. He always had the 1, 2, and then he had the rest of the rhyme. Biggie been smooth and days of underoos. Ooh, the ooze. Trues cruise who, bruise who. You know? Once you find out where the rhyme is, if it's on the 2 or the 4 or the 3 or the 6, it all makes sense. Anyway, everybody's tuning out. I'm turning off the podcast. Rob's talking about rap. I was just having a conversation with. First of all, I got to give a shout out to Vince and Axel and Frank and Rob at Metal Sucks Metal Injection. They are now, I guess, Rob and Vince and Axel, a.k.a. Ben and Matt at Metal Sucks, are moving on. They're moving on. I just had fucking Vince from Metal Sucks on the podcast a few months ago. He's moving on from Metal Sucks. Frank is going to be taking it over. Frank at Metal Injection, completely taking over all the operations, and they're now part of the Orchard or something. I don't know. Distributed by them. I don't know. Whatever. And, but yeah, they're moving on. So shout out to them for being super cool dudes. Always been big supporters of Machine Head. And, you know, doing something that isn't easy, which is, you know, unlike most of the news aggregators out there, and there's a lot of news aggregators with zero opinion, you know, those motherfuckers went out on a limb and put their opinion out. Like, they would make opinion pieces, and, you know, it didn't always jive with everybody, but I always respected them for that, because it's the hardest part. It's easy to just cut and paste fucking other people's news bits and then just make a little fucking thing out of it. But, you know, to create your own is definitely a challenge. And so they're going to be moving on. Rob too. Rob's moving on from Metal Injection. Frank is taking over. So things are changing in the North American metal landscape. I was like, whoa, that's a big change. It's a big change. They got Emperor Rhombus taking over at Metal Sucks now. So and I think he's a good writer. I've liked a lot of his articles. And I think he wasn't there for a minute. Like, maybe he's just coming back or something. I don't know. I'm not too up to speed on everything. But, yeah, it's kind of the end of an era in a way, you know, and a new era will come out of it for sure. But it is a little bit of the end of an era with Ben and Matt, Vince and Axel moving on. So, yeah, that was the kind of big news of earlier this week. Earlier this week? Yeah, maybe earlier this week. I don't know. It's all starting to blur together now. Speaking of that, though, speaking of Vince, I'm going to give this dude a shout out. I'll set this up before I share the screen. I'll share it on the video. You're probably not going to, you're just going to hear it on the audio. But speaking of Vince from Metal Sucks, Vince from Metal Sucks, which AKA Ben Umanov, Monty Connor, and I all have a thread that's pretty much solely dedicated to farts, like an email thread that's just dedicated. And I can't remember. I want to say it started, I don't know. It might have started because I told some stories about my son. I don't even know. I can't remember how it started. I should go back into the thread and look how it started. But it was either that or it was when I was talking about farts with that's what it was. I was talking about farts with Ben when he was on the podcast. And how, like, he's got a young kid and how farts are just perpetually fun. I mean, they're just eternally funny. And that even now, like, as a grown adult, like, farts are just fucking hilarious to me. And I can, you know, I vividly remember being I was out when we were on tour with Metallica, and we were in Nobu. Metallica guys, James and Lars, took us out to Nobu, which is a super fancy, you know, Asian restaurant that's incredible. We're in London. And fucking Hetfield's got this fart app on his iPhone, and he's sitting there playing all of the fart, like in Nobu, like super loud on his phone. And we're just fucking dying. Like, I was in tears. I was laughing. Sorry, you know, this is like kind of brand new. So, like, you know, I think this is right when it came out. So, you know, it was just so goddamn funny. And we were talking about that and just talking about a bunch of shit. Anyway, he sent me this guy. I'm going to give him a shout out. 66 Seamus, I believe is what it is. And fuck, he's funny, man. He did a whole fart comp. Let me say how do I got to do this. I got to share this. Share screen. Yes. Optimize for video. Yes. Is it this? Yes. And then I go back over here and I press play. Boom.
Never gonna give you.
What is going on, everyone? I hope you're all staying safe out there, and I hope you all had a nice Thanksgiving weekend, abari. Even though in Canada we had Thanksgiving.
That was good. We got to do it again.
Never gonna give you.
What is going on, everyone?
Where he said, this is kind of genius, I gotta say.
Any keyboard plugin you can think of, orchestra plugins, and of course, my favorite part, the Coupe de Bari sampling plugins. I have something on here called Drop Zone, and you can literally just drop any sound in. hundreds of emails, but some of you guys sent me quite a lot of farts. And I mean quite a lot. One guy sent me over 500 farts by himself. Like, are you kidding me? I've also learned by listening to hundreds upon hundreds of farts over the last week that, you know, some people are just really gifted videos of you having diarrhea down to 88 farts of them. Yeah. And sorry.
He's gonna.
That was a good one. William Smith. Nick Moscow. Andika Tepos from Indonesia. I was just
Get going, though.
Brock Cameron.
That's a good one.
Was that real?
Justo hablaste, me cagaste.
Wait, what the fuck? Sound like if you stepped on a duck. Jeremy Sheridan.
Pretty good. Pretty goddamn good.
This one's from Drums 360. He calls it the motorcycle.
Whoa, wet, dude. That was
F.
wet.
Yeeth. Okay, I saved 3 of this guy's
Wet.
farts. They must be good. All right.
All right. Oh my God. Holy moly.
Dude.
Anyway.
Bobby Butterfield.
Pretty good.
my
Bobby
favorite cat
Butterfield.
right there.
I'm going to give a
Besides
shout out to
Alice.
Bobby
Holy
Butterfield.
Shit, dude, I think I just blew a funny fuse. Man, some of these are...
Those were fucking awesome, though. I fucking love that. That was so goddamn funny. Anyway, we had that going for a while, and we had, oh my God, so many fart CDs going by, and then other people, but shout out to 66 Samus for compiling that spectacular fart video. That was epic. I watched the whole thing, and it was, dude, that took a lot of effort, and it was impressive. I highly recommend it, so you can see the title there. But, yeah, go check him out, 66 Samus. He's got a good YouTube channel. Metal and fart-oriented YouTube channel. Anyway, we got Doc. Let's see, what do we got? Let me give you an update here. I'm in the studio. I was just hanging out with Ex Mortis. Ex Mortis is next door over in Sharkbite, and I've been hanging out with those guys for the whole week. They've been working on their new album, and, dude, it's a ripper. Fuck, it is some neoclassical symphonic metal mania, dude. Jesus, fucking shred-tastic. Really good. So I don't know when that's coming out, but super cool guys. And yeah, they've been doing some ripping shit. Just went to the Obituary, Municipal Waste, Decibel Music Tour, and yeah, that was a ripper. Fucking Gate Creeper, Enforced. Enforced killed it. Man, fucking Enforced was awesome. Kind of, I think people were calling him Slayer Trip, you know, kind of Power Trip meets Slayer. It was, Singer's a beast. Yeah, I'd love to get him on the podcast. His name is Knox, I think. And I already had Chase Mason from Gate Creeper on, so if you want to dig into the old episodes, Chase from Gate Creeper was on here. Supposed to have Donald Tardy on today, but their bus broke down, and then they were fucking late to the hotel, so that'll come in the future. It's a killer show, though. Fucking awesome. Just stacked bill, great lineup. Everybody did great. Municipal Waste was fucking awesome. So goddamn funny. Their singer's quite lovable, that guy. He's quite lovable. Funny as fuck. The Thrashing of the Christ and Art of Partying and, yeah, You're Cut Off, all that shit. It was good stuff. It was a good time. And then Obituary just slayed. Fucking awesome. Good hanging with those guys. Kicked it with Will Carroll from Death Angel. We got hammered. It was a fun night. We drank a lot. We drank a lot. I'm singing the Faith No More song there. And, yeah, it was a good time. It was a good vibe all around. So been having fun. Wear the mask all night. If you're going to shows, wear the mask. You know, you don't want to be spreading COVID or getting COVID. And, man, so many shows. If you live in America right now, it's just the fucking craziest time. Like, we just had 100,000 people die of COVID since mid-December. And fucking, I'm not even joking. There's a show if I wanted to go to a show every single day, I could go to a show. It's just the fucking craziest thing I've ever seen. It's 2 years worth of touring happening in fucking a 4-month period. It's wild, man. It's wild time. It's the Wild West out here. Yeah. But it was good stuff. Soulfly's coming. I think I might go to that. I might go check that out. With Dino on guitar. But yeah, that's about it. Record's done. We've got some interludes. We've been getting the final cover going. Very excited. I know a lot of press has been happening just kind of randomly. Like we got some just like little, it's just like a little studio report, but bam, it's up there. Somebody posted today that the new album sounds like referred to as The Blackening 2. And, before everybody goes starting with that, listen, it's been said, but I don't feel like that's the case personally. I think it is, it's kind of a step away from Bloodstone and Catharsis in the sense that it doesn't really have any of the symphonic stuff that we were going for on those last 2 or 3 records where, it's a lot of like keyboards and strings and, string quartets and, symphonic elements. And there's definitely none of that, like if it is, it's more like say, earlier records where it was just all guitars, and if it is a symphonic element, it's just created out of guitars, which is that was a conscious choice. I wanted to do that. Like I wanted to just, if it was going to have this kind of symphonic layered thing, it was going to be done with just fucking guitars, man. More guitars. So, but yeah, I'm excited. And people seem like they're getting excited, and I'm getting excited, and we're just trying to figure out the release date and fucking vinyl horse shit, because vinyl's like fucking gajillion years now. End of October for vinyl right now. And I don't want to wait until the end of October to put the record out. Fuck vinyl. Who fucking cares? Put the shit out. Let motherfuckers listen to it. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll have to figure it out. Last week I talked about the spiders in the bathroom toilets, and you guys got back to me with some stories about that. Got to give a shout out to Jeff Gomes. He did. Yo, Roberts Gomes. I, too, in my early 20s in a job site toilet, had a massive black widow crawl out between my legs, and it freaked me the fuck out. Needless to say, I was always checking before sitting, rock boulder moving. Pick myself for. I don't know what he's talking about here. Something about four-wheeling or something. and naked, and I guess he likes naked defecation before getting in the shower. I don't know if you do that, Jeff, or if you just like the idea of it. He just thought it was funny. But yes, many of you wrote in. A couple people left in comments too, on that last about the spider in the fucking toilet, dude. It freaked me out. So yeah, right on for Gomes. I know Gomes is a big listener. He likes this. I run into him at shows. He plays in Mordred, so if you guys want to check out, Mordred has a new album out featuring my long time homie Jeff Gomes. Check that shit out. Anyway, I got God forbid Doc Coyle from Vegas Nerve, from Bad Wolves. Check this out. Number 1 song on Spotify is Anti-Hero off of their album Gone Forever. Number 1 by a long shot too. It's never got playlisted or nothing. I'm kind of impressed by this. Check this out. I remember when Colin Richardson was mixing this record.
Across the sea, where it's only one to the sea.
Byron sounds killer. I loved his voice. Such a good voice. I remember liking this song. Watch That World. You gotta check out God Forbid, motherfuckers. You never checked out God Forbid? You gotta check out God Forbid. Metal Riff Mania. Riff-tastic. I'll play you some of his Vegas nerd stuff too. I always thought that stuff was pretty cool. There it is. Maybe I'm spelling it wrong. No, there we go. Check this out.
This place is not a home.
Kind of like a Muse vibe.
This is just a tomb. It's the tomb of the king. He took everything. We built him a temple and he locked us in.
Okay, maybe not Muse, but you know. I always thought it was cool. This song's called Promise Me the World. Check this out. This is off of the new Bad Wolves record right here. This is House of Cards. This is a banger, dude. Banger, dude. I'm pretty sure this is Doc's song too. Let me see. Yeah, Houses. Yeah. This is also from their new record, If Tomorrow Never Comes. this is a big song for them. The song's called Sober. Try to look all this. This is from their previous record, Nation, earlier record.
Struggle's getting old. For a moment I can't wait. Cause you said you're sober, lying and I can't get closer. Tell me, should I let you go? Tell me, should I let you go? Cause you said you're sober, lying and I can't get closer. Tell me, should I let you go?
And then everybody heard that one song they put out, Zombie. Holy shit, it was fucking huge. They did a cover of the Cranberries, Zombie. You know what I'm saying? Everybody heard this. Biggest song they got. 254 million streams. Holy shit. It's really good. If you never heard this. In your head, zombie, zombie, zombie. And then this is the new single, Lifeline. This is a jam right here. Yeah, this is it. But there you go, friends. Go check out some God Forbid, check out some Vegas Nerve, check out some Bad Wolves, because right now we have the mighty .coyle. No fucking regrets. .coyle.
Rob Flynn.
How are you, my friend?
I'm doing all right. You know, it's like it's Tuesday, but it feels like Monday.
It does.
You know, because Bad Wolves, we literally just did like 2 weeks with DL, our singer, in town, just like rehearsing and doing studio stuff, B-sides, doing web content, social media stuff, and so it's like no days off. And it's like once he left, I had to take like 2 days to just not think about the band, just to like regain my soul.
What kind of content? What is content? What are you doing for content?
I mean,
TikTok skits or something like.
Well, in truth, the plan was to do more stuff like that, and we just didn't really get around to it. But it's just really just trying to get as much, just anything like
right.
You saw that clip of us like just playing acoustic, you know, just things like that. That because he's not here, he doesn't live here, we can't do otherwise. So it's like, oh, let's just get a little thing, and I think things like that are cool because, you know, now especially have someone who's not out there that much as a singer, people that, oh, is it studio trickery? Is it, you know, it's very relaxed. It's very human. It's like, it's not perfect, but that's kind of makes it cool.
I don't know, man. Like that motherfucker's pretty pitch perfect. Like that little clip you put up, I was like, oh my God, like his voice is so good, dude. Like it's just really full and
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. And then we did a day or just an evening with Papa Roach and Hollywood Undead, because I think it's really cool. They do all this kind of subversive, entertaining marketing to promote the tour. And so everyone was there, and it is like designed to be like skits and stuff for TikTok and things like that. And so we ended up just doing this little clip of us playing this Papa Roach song, Scars. And it was just like, just off the cuff, like literally, oh, what song should I do? I'm like, what about Scars? And I learned the chords and he learns the lyrics and we sing it. I was like, God damn, this motherfucker can sing good.
Wow. That's pretty rad. So that was just, and that's going to be like some content that goes up.
We already put it up.
You already did it up. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Yeah, just like,
So
yo,
what
get
was
ready.
it? Like it was like a live thing, or what was it? You said it was an evening with, but what is that like?
No. I mean, Papa Roach was in town, like shooting a music video.
Yeah, I saw
and
you pictures of you guys all like together from the tour, right?
Yeah, and they do really well on TikTok. They have like 1 million followers on TikTok, and they'll literally spend a day just doing TikTok content.
Okay.
You know, with their social media people.
Wow.
Yeah, they really
what do they put up?
I mean,
I guess I don't follow them on.
Dude, TikTok is its own world, man.
No, dude, I'm all over TikTok. But I don't post on there, and I don't follow Papa Roach. So,
well, it's like, I mean, it's all kinds of stuff. They do reaction stuff. I mean, some of their biggest videos is literally just them reacting to someone singing their song.
Okay,
you know,
that's
or cool. Jacoby does this character, this kind of goofy bro character, like where he'll be him, but then he'll do the character, and it's like they'll do stuff like that.
I love
they'll do duet stuff where they'll set up like so you can kind of duet to their thing.
Okay.
I mean, they're really deep into it, and I was hoping we do some more stuff like that because we basically haven't done shit in that avenue. So, but we need to.
I know most people that I do, and even myself, have done it wrong. You know, like because TikTok is like the people who are on TikTok are so fucking good at doing TikTok.
Yeah.
You know, like the tool screen thing and the guy talking to the same guy. You know, like it's just so good. And I'm like, I can't. I don't know if I can do that.
Well, I think it's like anything. You could, but you have to put the time in. Just same way you got good at guitar, you got good at podcasting,
right?
Or you got good at singing and worked on it. It's like anything else. Like the TikTok is the first social media I saw where I was like, oh, that's a real skill set.
Yeah.
You know, that's not just anyone. Like you have to obviously have some acting skills or maybe some singing skills or whatever, editing, and then understanding all the little effects that they use and where the words.
I know, dude, like all of it. It's like a fucking whole thing.
Yeah, it's like learning Pro Tools or something.
Yeah. I just posted something on my Instagram that I grabbed off of TikTok, which is also a thing that I love, that you can just save a video off of TikTok and then share it, which is something super cool. And the guy was just super funny. Like the whole thing was, I mean, I was just watching it right before you came on for like the third time, and I'm just pissing myself laughing. Like he's just so fucking funny.
I mean, and I'm starting to realize that I think the lines are basically blurred now between the musician and the content creator. And essentially, if you can do well in one medium, right? If you can do great on TikTok or do well on Instagram or do well on YouTube or do well on Twitch, that's promoting your fucking band, you know? And you're going to create an avenue for people to check out your music. So, and that's something like, even like us kind of being podcasters and stuff, that's one element of it, but really taking that full thing seriously will insulate you from the ups and downs in the industries with things like pandemics. Right.
Totally, man. There's so many things that I want to talk to you about. And, I love that we just started talking about social media right off the bat, because it isn't like in some ways. And let me ask you this, because I feel like social media means more in one way than it ever has, and it means less than it ever has.
In what way?
Like I remember one of the Wu-Tang dudes. I think it was who was it? It was one of the Wu-Tang dudes, like back in like the MySpace era. He had like 100,000 MySpace followers, and I think only 12,000 people bought the record or something. And he was like, "Fuck all you motherfuckers!" I'm like, "You just fronting on my MySpace." And like, it didn't buy this thing. 88,000 of you motherfuckers couldn't buy my record. Fuck you. Yeah, like
MySpace had a lot of fake accounts though.
Did it?
A lot of bots on MySpace.
Okay. I never got on MySpace, so I never really knew. But I just feel like, you know, like I just had Andy Biersack from Black Veil Brides. And he's probably the closest person I've ever had to really like a pop star. You know what I mean? Like this dude's got 2 million followers on Instagram. I was like, holy fuck. Like that's a lot of goddamn followers, you know, like, and he does it well, and it's, you know, very curated for audience. I'm sure it's mostly girls. And that's great. I mean, it's great for him. And, you know, I love Black Veil. I love the record, The Wretched and Divine. And, you know, like, it was a great interview and a great thing. But I'm looking at, okay, you got 2 million followers, you know, new record comes out. It didn't translate to 2 million people buying your records, or even 1 million, or even 500,000, or even 100,000. You know what I mean? Like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, when I say that, I feel like in some ways it's more important than it's ever been, because it helps probably keep their profile alive and, you know, people knowing what they're doing. But at the same time, you know, and they're doing great, but at the same time, you know, there's not this active buying audience on there.
Well, we can't. I think we got to throw
streaming
out,
or even streaming audience.
Yeah, but I think we got to throw out the whole buying. I think that just doesn't matter. I mean, it just really doesn't matter when you have an audience who the way they express how they like your band is not by buying your record. It's just not, you know, it's by. I think if you want to kind of gauge passion, right, you have to look at engagement. Obviously, ticket sales matter. I think merch sales matter. I think your VI, you know, how many VIPs did you sell? How many? And I think with someone like that, there is this difference where maybe they just like Andy and they don't give a fuck about his band.
Right.
You know, like, you know what I'm saying? Where they just like the person. And so the best way he can kind of capitalize on that audience is by doing things that are solely through the brand of the guy, you know, which is like, if you look at the numbers, like stream numbers on his solo record, huge numbers.
Oh,
he did really well.
Oh, okay.
So maybe if it's like, oh, Andy Black, you know, merch line, or Andy Black branded product, or Andy Black, like you see the numbers like Ronnie Radke's doing on Twitch?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, the dude made a buttload of money on there. And because it's, yes, they're Falling Universe fans, but they like that guy. So it's become more about the individual and kind of going, hey, I have this band, which is great. We do all these things, but it's kind of just, I think we all have to kind of create our own little revenue streams and create our own little fan bases that follow what we do, which might be 3 or 4 different things that aren't just the band, and the band is a part of something bigger, you know, but ultimately it's, you know, so it goes a little bit beyond that. And and that some of that stuff is also not as intuitive. And it's like, well, what if you have 2 million Instagram followers, but you got half of them 8 years ago? Are they still engaged? Who knows? I don't know. Right.
Yeah, I mean, like, you should probably just, like, if somebody hasn't looked at your page for a while, you should probably just, they leave your following or something.
Well, the thing is, I've noticed certain people I follow, they don't show up in my algorithm. But if I go to their page, like, randomly, like, oh, what's up with this person? And then I realize I didn't really see their stuff, then they'll start showing me their stuff. So Instagram is kind of weird with that, where they just stop showing you certain things because maybe they think you're not interested in seeing it, so that it doesn't show up in your algorithm. Where then some people post, I'll see like 3 or 4 things they posted that day in one feed. It's strange.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes I see like 20 posts from one dude, and I'm like, all right. and, you know, and some people do post, like, me and my wife were just joking. We have a friend, and I'm not going to name any names, but we have a friend. It was like 8:15, 3 posts. At 8:15 in the morning, you know, like in a second period, they managed to get 3 posts out. Then it was 8:16, 8:18, 8:09. I was like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, that's a lot of posting. More posting than I can manage.
If I feel like I do
manage.
If I do 3 posts in a day, I feel like people are definitely going to be sick of me.
Yeah, right. Totally.
And usually I'll go 3 or 4 days where I don't post anything. And then
do you have that thing on you got an iPhone?
Yeah.
Yeah, do you got the thing on your iPhone where you can see how much you've been on Instagram or how much you've been on any of your apps or whatever? Yeah,
I think I've seen it where it show like how much you just been on your phone, and it's pretty absurd. Like, I'm definitely addicted, and I don't know, like it's this thing, like, you know, like I've had periods because of everything that happened with Bad Wolves through the year where I just like, all right, I'm just gonna take the apps off my phone and kind of like just not be about it. And it was definitely pretty cool. But it's impossible when you're like promoting a record or promoting a tour or like trying to build momentum when you're like, if you're not on tour, right? Which was basically back in the day, that was our only way to really promote our records, right? Go on tour or like do interviews with Metal Hammer or something. Other than that, pretty much the only thing you can do is social media to get the word out. So if you're not doing that, you're kind of doing nothing. Right. You're just sitting on your ass and hoping people like your shit. So it's like trying to be as active in the space, and kind of, you have to be top of mind, I think, for people. Sometimes people go, oh, I forgot about that. And I swear that's half the way I got gigs in LA, was just being out and about. And people see you and they go, oh, maybe Doc can do this.
Seeing social media or seeing you in person?
Both. Yeah. But I mean, the social media is the online version of that, of being top of mind, of where a lot of people will go, well, I have times where I think I'm just like struggling, or I'm like, man, I'm just grinding, I'm trying to do this. And people are like, yo, man, you killing the game, just because of how you present your accomplishments or things you're working on.
Right.
It gives the appearance that things are doing great. And they probably are going great. Internally, exactly what's happening.
Right. The grind never stops. And you're like, all these things that are floating in your head, and you're like, I got this to do. I still got this to do.
It's a mix. It's always a mixed bag. And it's always like, oh, I have this one thing working out. But if you're like me, you're always thinking about the next thing, right? It's like, okay, it's cool, I did this wedding band gig. Well, okay, but what's the next thing?
I love that you brought this up. And I don't think artists talk about this enough, and maybe I'm just reading into this, but I'm like a dude who, like, once I've accomplished something, like, it's in the rearview mirror, I never think about it, and I probably should think about it from time to time, and maybe even fucking floss about it from time to time. But like, for me, it's like, I did it, it happened, like, it's done, like, on to the future. I mean, it's always like that. And that's kind of what you're saying too, right? Like,
yeah, to some degree, because I think what I learned in the God forbid experience was that you just can't hang your hat on praise for like the last album. It's like, okay, I can't pay any bills with being sick, right? Or dudes going, man, fucking gone forever. Like, I'm glad you like it, but I'm broke now. So it's about creating operations that are sustainable, that you can kind of go back to. And the only way you can do that is with consistency, unless you're like Steven Adler and you played on Appetite for Destruction and you're getting that 20% publishing for the rest of your life and you basically are good. Right. And that is the 1 out of a billion. That's not even 1 out of a million. We all have to constantly be consistent with our work. It's funny. I kind of had this revelation because of how like hard I'm grinding right now, because Bad Wolves is in this strange position where I kind of equate our situation to like if Rob Zombie left White Zombie, and then the rest of those dudes are like, we're going to carry on. Like, that's how big of a presence we're trying to replace. Like, it should not work. This should fail, right? On its face. If we're being honest with ourselves in terms of who is getting the attention and who a big portion of the fan base cared about. So it's like when you're trying to do the impossible, and I'm coming from a situation where I had a band that had some success and had a career trajectory, and I saw the band lose that, I know how easy this is to lose. Right. So it's like, so you have to give 1,000%. Doesn't mean it's going to work. You could work as hard as you want, but you can't control everything. You can't force the world to be affixed the way you want it to be. And so I'm kind of like trying to ride this balance. I talked about it on my podcast like last week, where I'm like, you got to kind of have to it's a discipline to have that Buddhist element of like not having desire, of like, you're ambitious, but also remember you can't control anything. So bust your ass, but don't put everything into this has to work out. Go, hey, I did the thing. Now let the universe decide whether it's going to work out, and don't be attached. Like, get rid of attachment in your mind to outcomes. And I'm not saying I haven't mastered, but it's something I have to constantly remind myself, like, yo, stop trying to control everything. You can't. Yeah. You can't make it be successful. You can try, you can do your best, but ultimately that relies on other people, right? It requires outside validation.
Yeah.
Right. We need people to stream our records. We need people to buy our merch. We need people to come to our shows. And so it's a weird thing, because for a long time I was like, I didn't give a fuck about that. I was just like, I'm just going to do things. Whatever happens, happens. But now I'm in this position where I'm like, I kind of have to make it work, or at least do my best to make it work,
I mean, I think that it's pretty impressive that you've managed to get something together so quick. I mean, like, you haven't really dropped a beat at all. You know, like, it's pretty fast. From
Yeah, I mean,
when news broke to now you got a new album out.
I mean, we had DL in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
After not having a singer. And
I mean, didn't he say he sent you something like the next day or 2 days later or something, right? Like,
yeah. I mean,
here's me singing to your songs.
Yeah, and based on his kind of look and his vibe and the way his voice sounded, I was like, being that he was the first person to submit, I'm like, worst case scenario, if we went with this guy, our records are going to sound consistent, and that's kind of a great base to start from. And it's kind of just built from there. But we still went on an exhaustive search. We got a couple dozen submissions where we had people just sing on old songs, and then we met 6 people in person and jammed in a room, and then had 3 people demo new songs. And that's how we kind of, it was important to kind of just meet with people and catch a vibe.
So everybody that came out to the 6 people that you met with, were they all from America? Like, they were all like,
yes,
California. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we had,
or other, just all over the States. I mean,
yeah, I want to say we had 2 or 3.
California, though, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and a couple people lived out here, so it wasn't that big of a deal, or they were coming from not very far away. But yeah, and a couple people we flew out.
And do you then give them the dinner test?
Yeah. I mean, I think we actually hung out with everyone. And it's just, you want to catch a vibe of the personality, but sometimes you pretty much knew after you jammed, you're like, this ain't the person, but you're still gonna go hang out with them and be cool,
Right. But you took him out to dinner though, like maybe get a couple of drinks and like, just shoot the shit and see if you hit it off or whatever.
Yeah, I'll say the first 3 people we pretty much knew. We're like, nah, it's not. It ain't gonna happen. It was really the last 3 that had a chance,
Okay.
And it's like, it's no discredit. It actually kind of made me realize that this gig ain't fucking easy. These songs are not easy to sing. The versatility, screaming and the singing, and like really this stuff, like I sing, so I know when something's high, when it's hard to sing and have it, it takes a lot of range. But there was a tonality that was really important for this band to kind of stay on brand, right? It's like, it's like Todd LaTorre from Queensryche, right? There's a tone that's kind of sounds like Queensryche that if you don't match, or not match, but it's not consistent, it's not going to feel the same. Or like William Duvall from Alice in Chains, where you're like, yeah, he doesn't sound like Lane Staley, but it's still on brand.
Right. It sounds Alice in Chains-ish.
Yeah, you're like, this is an Alice in Chains record, and that is believable to me. And that's something where it's just something that matters. And that was the kind of thing that put it over the edge for me. It was like, it felt the most like the band, and I had to, because there was someone else I really liked, and it was a tough choice. But if I was being honest with you, because you can't just be like biased and like pulling for someone because you like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got to try and be honest with yourself and go, what is the best decision for the band?
Yeah. What did it help that DL was from, he's from like Massachusetts, right? Mm-hmm. Originally. Yeah. I mean, like Northeasterner, like you guys are from, I think John's from Massachusetts as well. Like, you're from Jersey. There's
definitely East Coast energy. Me and DL go back to 2004. So we're just like old buddies, so there's a comfort level, and there's half that I think you don't even realize about. Oh yeah, there's the playing on stage and rehearsing, but the 23 hours of the day when you're not doing that, where you're just living together,
right,
and having to have rapport and having to get along. And he just seemed like one of the guys, like from minute 1, and that comfort level, it matters, it definitely matters. But the one thing I'm telling you, the kind of X factor that I didn't realize at the time, and it's really the main reason why he was the best person for the job, was he's very unshakable. He's very like, when the band was dealing with some very difficult stuff, I call him, he's like, how you doing? Oh man, I'm great. Everything's fine. Just very calm and chill. And he has a certain demeanor and kind of ability, like cool-handedness that you kind of needed to, I think, take this job, because it just, in hindsight, whoever took this job was going to be tough.
Right.
The online harassment and just negativity, like really ugly stuff, which is kind of sad, right? When you really think about what a fan is supposed to be and how they're supposed to relate to you, and kind of the ugliness that's out there. It's kind of a shame, right? Because you're kind of like, there's almost nothing meaner than that, right? You have someone who has a new job, who's out there doing their best, and someone's like, "You suck, you piece of shit. I hope you die." And it's like, Jesus, bro, really? like what? Did your mama teach you to treat people like that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
if he was, and you know what's so funny is, like, if he was the new barista at Starbucks or Pete's Coffee, like, no one would be like, "Yo, man, the fucking last barista was way better, bro."
Yeah, it's just, and I'm sure that happens to some degree with any band. Our situation, I think, is fairly unique, and there's certain things I can't really talk about, but it was fairly unique. So it's kind of like, this test of like will and determination to basically like deal with something that's extremely this negative frequency, and then using will to basically get above it. And that's, dude, it's one of the hardest things I've ever done, because it can break someone, and
it was a very public, lawsuits and, very, very public, definitely not anything behind the scenes. So yeah, I'm sure it was tough at times,
And I got to thank you for being
out in the public eye like that, and
Yeah.
everybody's thinking and talking and.
Yeah. And that's exactly the thing I don't want to do. I'm pretty like, when stuff, God forbid, went down, I wasn't out there like calling Corey a jabroni or something. It's like, I love those dudes. And even when me and some guys weren't seeing eye to eye, I never didn't love those guys, or I wouldn't want, or like with things happening to my brother, like I could say bad things about my brother or things that I didn't like, but that's not anyone else's business. It's not the way I choose to kind of handle myself. Because I think it's not classy, it's not, and so, even though I got some shit for saying a few things deep in the game, and I think the things I said were kind of like being pushed to the brink. Right. I feel like at some point you got to say something, but it's not my preference. It's just, and I don't really like having feuds anyway. Like, I'm the kind of guy, like, if someone has an issue with me, I have an issue with them, I want to squash it. I want to get past it. I don't want to like see someone at a show and have them like mad dog me across the room. I'd rather go, "Hey bro, we cool? Can we just," like, I really don't give a fuck. Like, this community is pretty small, and it works best when we're all helping each other, because we all pretty much have the same goals, And it's more than enough to go around. I really believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More than enough. What?
Success.
Yeah,
success.
Right. Yeah.
Like, I think we're seeing that right now, because I feel like a lot of bands are doing really well, and the bands, and this is why, like, the thing, I don't know if I mentioned this on our show when I had you on, but it's like someone went to bust your balls. I'm like, "Yo, man, you need to start bringing some bands on tour again, son. All right, you need to start helping these bands out, helping the community, Rob. Remember when Slayer took you out, Rob?" No, because it is that kind of like putting the olive branch down, and like I think I respect what you guys did, because it was fucking sick. But this communal aspect of metal it's so important to me. Like, it really is something I care about deeply,
Yeah, I don't know if every band we've ever taken out has truly felt that way.
Why?
Like, sometimes, I don't know. Sometimes you take a band down, they're just like, like, what, just complaining and fucking just a problem. Like, sometimes it's been awesome. Like, when we had you guys out, I will forever take this. I will say this till my dying day, COYLE. But like, that was just such. It was so great having you guys out just all the time. We took you out everywhere. Like, we just.
We're the ultimate Machine Head fans, though. Like, it was.
But even like aside from that, like, it was just, you guys were just fun to hang out with and easy, and it was just not, some bands are just fucking you know, a fucking drama. Like, it's
I got a suggestion for you. So
Yeah.
I got the new suggestion. Here's what you do.
Take
Maybe we should make a show out of this. You do where you do your like podcast, you get people on Zoom, and you basically maybe you'll have like 5 bands you're considering open the tour, and you do like a job interview, you know, and you bring them on and you're like, so
on the podcast. So
yeah, and then you go like
everybody can assess the the job.
You show up to your dressing room and there's no beer. What do you do? You gotta see how badly they want it or how bitchy they're gonna be when they get out there.
Right. Yeah. Totally. I mean, sometimes, you know, like sometimes you take a band out. I mean, obviously, dude, we took bands out for fucking decades. You know what I mean, like so many. I mean, we broke Meshuggah. They fucking took Meshuggah on their first tour. You know, so you
helped break, God forbid, and it's like especially in America and in the UK, like Machine Head was the first what I call like mainstream metal band to take God forbid out. That didn't feel like an underground extreme metal band or something that was in another. It was kind of like, oh, God forbid, they're in this tier now, you know, and that was a big deal.
Right on. Yeah, that was a great, dude. I mean, like you guys were killing it, and you were touring with everybody. I mean, I must have seen you guys play the Pound. You came through San Francisco so many times back in like it must have been Gone Forever, but maybe the record after that too. Like that era, for sure. I remember seeing you guys a lot.
Yeah, between 2001 and 2006, we probably played the Pound like 7 times or something.
Right. Yeah. Like it was just God forbid's coming through again. And it was like, all right, let's bring the fucking giant bottle of Grey Goose and we'll be getting down after.
Ooh, I remember that one when we headlined the Pound with like Caliban.
Oh, right.
And It Dies Today. And you brought that bottle. I was like, holy shit.
That was a good night.
I think we finished it too. It was pretty
rage that night.
That was yeah. And that was, dude, we headlined, sold it out. You know what I'm saying? Pump it up.
Yeah.
Pump it up.
Totally. Take me back to, you know, I'm sure you can't say too much about current events, but, you know, I'm definitely, you know, very happy for your success that you're having with the new album and, you know, the new singer. And I think me and my wife still listen to Lifeline regularly. Like she fucking loves that song. Like she thinks she loves a lot of the song. You know, she's not really into that type of music. She's not a big metalhead. She's, you know, if she listens to metal, it would probably be like Old Sepultura or like Hatebreed or something. She likes Hatebreed, but you know, like she's like, man, that dude's voice is really cool. So,
we have a big female fan base. I think our Instagram data, it's 50-50.
Wow, that's fucking amazing.
Yeah, so it's, I mean, obviously a lot of that had to do with you know, looks and certain things and persona, but I do think musically it definitely has that kind of, you know, it's funny, I called Machine Head a mainstream metal band but we're so much more in that mainstream rock world, and you know, and especially DL, like he has like kind of undeniably just like a sexy sounding voice, like he has almost a pop voice.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which definitely is going to have a broader appeal. And it was actually kind of important to us on this record not deviate too much from that, because we wanted people to like still have that familiarity be able to tie a line between like Zombie and like a song like Hear Me Now or Sober from our last record and go, okay, the band still does that in addition to being pretty damn heavy.
Yeah. I still think I got to get DL on here because it just blows my mind that like for years and years and years, this dude's playing guitar in Acacia Strain, like writing some of the fucking heaviest goddamn shit like out there, depressing, brutal, claustrophobic fucking metal. That's awesome. I mean, it's heavy as fuck. Those fucking records are just, they're suffocating. They're so good. And I say that in the highest compliment because they're just so depressing at times, which I love. And then, you know, not singing, I mean, granted, there's a little bit of singing in there, but like not anything. Like I never could have in a million years imagined that this dude had that voice.
Well, it's funny. You think about the main songwriter from Acacia Strain, the main songwriter from Devil Driver, and the main songwriter and God forbid get together to make a butt rock band. which is reductive. I'm kind of roasting us, but it is actually pretty funny. And the funny thing about DL is he really gravitates towards the kind of more simplistic and melodic stuff. Like there's a song called Wildfire on the record, which we kind of were like, there was an internal debate about whether to include the song on the record, because it was like, is this too mainstream? Is it too saccharine? Is it too kind of down the middle? And he just kind of put his foot down. He's like, I love this song and I really want, and so and I think because it works really well with his voice. Mm-hmm. And he's just really into that. So I think it might be this element too of when you're doing something so heavy and so crazy, you almost want to have that moment to do the literal opposite. Right. You know? I wonder.
And it's in a better, you know, it's not the Acacia Strain that is going to write these songs. It's a new thing. So it kind of gives it this freedom, this license to do anything new.
Well, I'll tell you this. He's been out of that band for
years.
Over 10 years.
Yeah, a long time.
And when you talk to him and you see him like just pick up a guitar, or like halftime, he's actually playing like air drums. Like he's a good drummer. He's kind of like an Adam D kind of Devin Townsend type dude who can kind of just, you know, he might be a little bit of a musical genius kind of, savant kind of guy. You know, it's like, I get like just watching him play, I'm like, that dude's probably a better guitar player than me. You know, seriously, like watching him, just like his vibrato and his technique and how I'm just like, fuck, damn. You know, and there's just some people like that. They're just like, they can kind of just do it all. Music just makes sense for them. And yeah, it's just a real blessing to have someone that talented in the band, because he can produce, he can write, he can, if he has an idea, he can fully flesh it. We can go record with him and develop. That's something we haven't even done yet. I mean, we've done some stuff remotely, but
so he recorded the stuff kind of back home?
We did the initial 13 songs in LA with our producer Joseph McQueen and Josh Gilbert from As I Lay Dying, who are their production team.
Oh, okay.
And then we pretty much thought we were done, but the label was like, they wanted something a little more different, you know, a little like outside the box. And so we ended up working on, I want to say 3 more songs. And then he would just record. We ended up getting the same mic that we used in LA and have had him use that. So there was like a consistency of the sound. And yeah, he just recorded himself for like the extra songs. And one of those songs made the record, which is Springfield Summer. Okay. And I think he ended up recording the guitars, like the electric guitars on that. Oh, so, okay. And so just having that where you're like, you know, we're not in the studio spending $1,000 a day. We're just kind of doing things remotely, and we're working over here and sending files, and it's pretty crazy. So in a weird way, this record just kind of scratched the surface of what we can do, because he basically came into a record that was 60% done, with a lot of stuff. We rewrote tons of lyrics and some melodies and wrote a handful of new songs, but it'll be very interesting to kind of start from scratch and with him being kind of involved in the overall direction. Because I'm like a big concept guy. Like I love going to a record with like, all right, here's the intention, here's the mission statement. Whereas like John is a much more exploratory. Like there's not a lot of foresight. He just goes and does things, and it kind of turns into it. So I don't know who will. It doesn't always work. Like sometimes I'll have a concept, like it's concept, yes, and then it's like, no, that was really dumb. So we will not do that.
Every concept I've ever tried, never. It always just some other fucking way.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm kind of calling myself out. I'm like, I don't know if it really works. It's just, but I can't help but think about having an idea. And it doesn't need to be like
great. It's like that's your inspiration. That's what's giving you the drive to do this.
Well, I think about. It's funny, like that. The actual. It's funny I'm talking to you, because the comparison I made was like, I think this is our Through the Ashes of the Empires, and I think our next record could be our Blackening, because I think we just discovered something that could lead to something bigger. And I kind of knew that the Blackening was going to come. Like I knew whatever you guys did next was going to be like that. Like the Through the Ashes was like a appetizer for this next thing. And I'm hoping I'm not jinxing us and going and say we're gonna have some groundbreaking kind of critically acclaimed
I
thing.
think you will. I think you will. You know, like you'll have toured together a lot more. Like after this is all done, like you'll have like a unit. You know what I mean? Like you'll know your strengths from playing live, and like you'll get that live reaction. Have you played these songs live yet?
Just in rehearsal.
Yeah, just in rehearsal. I mean,
because they sound great.
Yeah, but you're still waiting to like get that.
Yeah,
like when you're playing them in front of people, and you can see, oh, this is the song that everybody does this or whatever.
Yeah. No, it's so weird, man. Because it's like I can't help but equally feel excitement, but also like fear. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but it's like thinking like, oh, here's the thing. It's like, oh, you want, but I'm very confident that the band's gonna sound the best we've ever sound. Like it's pretty amazing how good these fucking songs sound. Dude, Yell's crushing the old songs. Like It's nuts. Like I'm just like, even me, I was like, God damn, I didn't know he could bring like that. And it's just, so it's exciting, man. But I almost feel like sometimes you can't really get too much in like that anticipatory mode. You kind of have to just focus on what you're doing. Don't worry about a year from now. Don't worry, just deal with the challenge in front of you, which is like play the first show, then play the next show and whatever. So
when does the tour start? It's
March 1st.
Papa Roach, Hollywood Undead, Bad Wolves.
March 1st, Anaheim. House of Blues sold out, baby.
Awesome. So 1 month, yeah. That was sold out already. Nice. That's gonna be sick.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun, man. And like I said, we did our first like full rehearsals with him, and every day we played like a few more songs and we're tweaking things, and we're gonna get like a week of more rehearsals in. But we could do like, even what we did, we're like, man, we could do a show tomorrow, we'd be fine.
Right.
And that I'm definitely, when it comes to that stuff, I always want to over prepare so that you go to that first show and feel you're not thinking, where you're just kind of just playing and having fun. And so
you got to do that. You got to do lots of rehearsals up to that show so that you can you're going to be stressed already. So like, and it's LA for your opening night. So it's like, the better prepared you are, the better,
if with us, it's like we bought like new computers for the band and new like in-ear setup, so all that stuff and like is set up, and I got new ears and everyone's getting new gear, and just making sure all that stuff is squared away. And it's so funny how technical things are now, where it's you just want to when you want to operate on a professional level, and it's really important that the band comes off very professionally, like with our stage setup and new backdrop, and like the budget isn't quite enough to get like a big light setup or anything like that, but we still want on stage it to look badass.
Right. Yeah,
totally. That's without spending a ton of money.
Right. I mean, I think spectacle is maybe more important than it's ever been for live shows. People expect some spectacle, like they want to, everything doesn't have to be Rammstein, but like there's a reason that Rammstein's so popular right now because everybody fucking, they're playing stadiums because people that's what people want. And that's what people expect. And, like, I get it. I love it. I love putting on a big show. I wish we had a shit ton more money to put on a Rammstein level show. Well,
you're going to be going head to head with Amon Amarth. So they're going to have like a fucking, a Viking ship, right? What are you gonna have? You gonna have like what?
We're not. I don't think we're gonna have anything. I'm just like, what do we like? Fucking, couple of lions, or like, I'm just like, it'd just be so corny to be like in competition with them. Like they've got a Viking ship, so it's like they've got the golden arches, we've got the golden arch.
Maybe to call up Limp Bizkit, see if they'll rent you that big toilet.
Hey, we want to get that. We've got a big toilet. Like we've got the streets of Oakland. I'm not like a bunch of burned up cars or something. I don't know. A bunch of homeless people. We're from Oakland. We've got a bunch of homeless RVs on our stage.
So just build a tent city on stage.
We got a tent city on stage. They got fucking a Viking ship.
I mean, you gotta do something, bro. Apparently, Jamie Josta was trying to do something to buy this dragon from Dio it was like his stage set, like during the Holy Dive. He had a dragon on
Oh
stage.
yeah,
Like,
totally. Yeah.
he was trying to get people to
And
buy it. Like,
He battled it too.
what do you mean?
He
Oh,
battled
fought.
the dragon. Dio
Wow.
battled the dragon. Like the dragon would come down and he had like a sword and he was kind of doing this. I saw that.
Amazing.
I saw that. It was killer.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Get the dragon, all right?
I mean,
Apparently
imagine that was part of the. Yeah. Yeah. We'd one up them really big, huh? If we got the dragon.
Could be. Or you could just, you know what? You could have the guy from Burn My Eyes, like make that into a sculpture, whatever that dude is, the cyborg on fire man, whatever that guy is. I don't know.
I could have I could have like the Blackening Man and the Through the Ashes Man. I just like
thing.
dress up a crew guy in like
What's it Through the Ashes? Is that an astronaut?
No, it's like it's the gravestone. It's that baby blue gravestone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's funny. I was like, what came on the other day? 10-Ton Hammer came on. I'm just like, so fucking good. Like, it actually made me think about that era, just like of like Roadrunner and Sepultura and Fear Factory, and now it feels like man, they just don't make them like that anymore. You know, you just have that moment. I'm sure like when our parents were our age and they just like Pink Floyd to come on the radio, this man, they just don't make them like that anymore. Like, that's how I feel. It makes it just that much more sick, you know?
Yeah, a lot of those songs do hold up really well, man. You know, it's crazy it's mind-boggling to me to think that song is 25 years old now. Like, it just doesn't compute at any level that song is 25 years old. I wrote that song 26 years ago. You know, and it's still heavier than most of the shit on Octane. Right?
Yeah, but it's people are still being influenced by it. Like, we talked about, like, the new Bullet record, the last Parkway Drive record has a ton of Machine Head influence on there, and these are fucking big bands. So it's still like, you know, exists in the culture. Even that band Knocked Loose, they'll do shit. I'm like, oh, that kind of sounds like Machine Head or something, or, you know, Code Orange, I think is influenced by you guys. So,
you know, it's always incredibly humbling and flattering to hear it. You know, it's like wow, you know, like you know, sometimes you think, you know, like, and, you know, maybe this is just me, but like, I'm always just like, did anything I do ever fucking matter? You know, like, I just feel like sometimes it's just lost in the void, and then, you know, you hear something like that and you're like, yeah, like it did matter, you know, like it fucking, you know, people fucking loved it, and it still matters today, you know, like and it's hard for me, like, it's really easy for people to look at whatever our success or things like that. It's very hard for me to look at that, you know, like I said, to me, it's always just in the rearview mirror, and I'm just going, and it's like, I don't think about it, you know. Every once in a while, someone will go, you know, something about the Blackening or whatever, and I'll be like, yeah, like, you know, it's a fucking good record, man. You know, like, you know, I'd rather be the guy who wrote the Blackening than the guy who didn't. You know, like, so.
Well, you definitely sound like someone who hasn't been played the show in 2 years. I know, because right? you're like, does anyone care?
I just sit in my house drinking with my wife in my garage. I don't know what's going on up there.
I say one thing about you, I think that hasn't been copied that much, is your vocal style. I feel like I'm surprised more people don't rip that off, because that's like maybe the most unique thing about the band.
Yeah.
You know, maybe when Doc Cole goes solo, I'll start stealing your vocal style. So just let you know.
It's out there. I think, you know, everybody kind of takes their own trip. I think it's a little, I hear it out there, you know?
Yeah. All right.
But it's like,
let me know. Send me some links.
I think everybody kind of does their own. I think vocals are so like
personal. Yeah.
Personal. You know what I mean? And like, sometimes when you copy, like, I remember a bunch of people started copying Anselmo when all those records got super popular, and there was this local band where the guy, like, he would drink water like Phil Anselmo. He'd be like, you know, he'd put he'd do the lip, and we're like, stop. Like, he came up, he was hanging out when I like, you got to stop with the fucking lip and the water. Dude, what the fuck? Like, come on, just be yourself, bro. Like,
I mean, you could argue Phil was the single most influential front man, not just the vocal style, but everything he did on stage, the way he dressed, shaving his head, crowd banter from that like mid 90s all the way through like the mid 2000s. Like, how many people just stole his whole thing?
Yeah, it was definitely influenced. I mean, for me, it wasn't for me. I didn't have that high of a range, so like I just couldn't do that. You know, for certainly Max Cavalera was more like my speed. Like I was just like, oh, I can do that. Even like Burton from Fear Factory was definitely more like, I was like, oh fuck, that's killer. You know, like I was really that, and probably Jerry A from Poison Idea. Like those three guys, I was like, I can do that. You know, like I can't really do the high stuff. You know, I loved Chris Cornell, but I could never sing like Chris Cornell. You know what I mean? But like that power low thing, you know, with some singing with some Alice in Chains, because I loved Alice in Chains, and you know, Adam and I were doing some harmonies, and you know, we'd fucking sing Alice in Chains like in the car on the way to practice. You know, so shit like that kind of definitely had like more of an impact.
Right on. Right on. Well, I've almost with Pantera though. To me, you're like contemporary. So
yeah. I mean, I was technically predate Pantera with Violence. You know? So like we were playing thrash and stuff like that. I mean, we knew who Pantera was. Like they were like the poser dudes in Texas, because they were like super popular, and we were just like, these poser dudes are popular. You know, this is with the old singer too. You know, like this is with, you know, even predating all that. So like we had been hearing about them for some time, and then it was like, oh, they went heavy. Oh, okay, cool.
And then they became the best heavy band around.
Tell me, who's been, I was just listening to your Lombardo podcast, because I read an interview where you were just saying how you were just like, oh my God, this was the best podcast. And it was like, I got to ask every question. And, you know, for all you don't know, Doc's got an awesome podcast called The X-Men, which has a, the premise is you're an ex-band member, and what are you the ex-band member? You know, and that's just kind of the premise. You go all over the place and talk about a million things. But you were saying that he was your best guest, and I watched a bunch of it, and I could tell you were just fucking pinching yourself the entire time. You had just the biggest smile, and you know, you did a great job. And you know, what was it about that particular interview that just was so cool for you?
I mean, he's my favorite drummer, period. I mean, and you know, having the opportunity, it wasn't like I went in and didn't know him. So it wasn't like this weird thing of like, I can't believe I'm talking to Dave Lombardo. Like I'm buddies with Dave. I played on stage with Dave, and toured with him and hung out with him. So there's a rapport there. But I think just the generosity of his time and kind of openness, I think
it's a long interview. It's like almost 3 hours, right?
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like, it wasn't, I think this thing, right, to do kind of what we do and have it work is just never lose that fan in you, never lose that appreciator. Like one of my favorite things about your show is that little bit before the interview where you like play clips and talk about why you like it, or you're just because you're just a fan, right? And it's the same thing like when we would tour together, we'd be backstage and you'd be, I can't think about how many bands I discovered because you like were playing something, or like you'll put out like, oh, here's my top 10 records. And I'm like, because I know you're just someone who loves music. So you're just, and it's never like, oh, I'm on this level. And just because it's a new band or whatever that they're on, it's just either it's good or it's bad. And just having that appreciator and being a fan, and then go, okay, what I'm going to do is ask the questions that interest me and go, hey, this is my one chance to talk to one of my idols and ask them all this stuff that probably would be a little awkward if you asked just hanging out, you know, like it'd be like, because no one wants to be interviewed when they're just hanging out. So it's a way, it's just a great privilege to have access to that person for that time and go, these are things I always wanted to know. And if I really want to know them, then there's probably a good chance that other people do. So a lot of people, what people will tell me that they liked about my show is that I asked the things that they always wanted to know, you know, and then try and like, and someone brought up this point, which was great, is like that you had John Petrucci on your show and I had John Petrucci on my show, but they were completely different interviews, right? Because your interest point or your connection with him is probably vastly different, and what might come to us would be very different. And so I think a couple of times I might have like maybe we had the same guest or maybe Josta, and I would purposefully listen to that one so that I didn't ask the same questions.
Yeah.
You know, but I know like I think our shows are a little bit more similar in structure, whereas Josta seems like it's very just off the cuff and he kind of just starts talking and they just kind of talk about whatever. It doesn't seem to be like as structured, but I like that. I like that. Okay, what can I ask that is conducive to my personality and the things I want to know, and it always kind of just comes off that way, and then you know the numbers on that show. It's like my two biggest shows are Lombardo and John Bush that was just on. Like apparently, if you have big four dudes on that don't do a lot of interviews, people it seems to pick up a lot of steam. You know?
Yeah. How was John? Was that a good interview, John Bush?
It was great. Honestly, I was worried because I only had him for 40 minutes, and I was like, it just went right by, and I was like, man, did I even get stuff? And then when I listened back to him, like, actually, man, I actually I got a lot done in a very short amount of time. And it was great, man. It's same thing, just so generous, so kind, and willing to talk about things. And almost the same thing where I was watching the Anthrax. Did you watch all that documentary thing they did?
I watched some of it. I didn't watch all of it, but yeah.
And I didn't watch all of it either. I watched a few episodes, but then I made sure to watch his era stuff so that I didn't just go like, what's the point of him just repeating the stories that he told in an official Anthrax documentary, right? Like that's not that really that informative. It's like, okay, well, let me find some of this like nitty gritty stuff and like real fan shit, just like, and it just turned out great, you know. And I'm just grateful that any of these guys would give me the time of day, you know. And it's just like I said, I feel it's like it's a real blessing and a real privilege to have the opportunity to talk to him or talk to D. Snyder or did you have D and like KK Downing?
Oh, good. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's like crazy. It's crazy. Like why are they talking to me? Like, dude, that's the crazy
KK
thing.
Downing. I swear to KK Downing was like bucket list shit. Like I wanted to be KK Downing when I was a kid. Like the reason I play a flying V is because of KK Downing. Like I stared at the cover to Unleashed in the East by Judas Priest for probably 48 hours of my life. You know, like I was like, this is the coolest band I've ever seen in my life. Like, I mean, I want that guitar right there. Red and white, but I think it was like a Hamer or some fucking rando fucking like flying V. Like, you know, but it was just so, you know, and there's even times when I'm talking to him and I'm literally flashing back to staring at that album cover like, okay, stop, like get back into the fucking moment here. Cause I'm just, you know, it is, I know what you mean. It's an honor, you know, and the thing that I think that, you know, you can probably agree with this, but like you would, if you ran into KK Downing at an awards show or at a festival or Dave Lombardo, and like, you wouldn't have this conversation. You know, you might have like a conversation like, oh, hey, what's up? You know, 5 minutes or whatever it ends up being, you know, and it would be good. But there's something about this medium that allows you to have a conversation about shit you probably would never, ever talk about unless you were like on tour with them for 3 or 4 months.
Yeah. And the funny thing is now that I've been doing it, I'm 5 years in doing this. Because now I kind of know what I'm doing in terms of shaping an interview in interview in kind of loose terms in terms of shaping a conversation so that it feels like it has an arc. It feels like it has flow. It never gets boring. Being reactive, right? Not being tied to a list of questions or bullet points and kind of feeling the conversation in real time. So it feels organic.
Do you write down questions?
Either sometimes it's like questions or sometimes it's more just like a subject matter.
Okay, gotcha.
or an era. And sometimes I put it there sometimes with the purpose of not even really looking at it. Just sometimes just I do the work. It's better when it's kind of just it's in your head, but then it's there if you need to reference it where you're like, I literally don't know what I'm going to talk about next. Or if you feel like a certain subject has kind of gotten beat down, you need to like, let's transition out of this.
Right.
But I remember like when before I started the podcast, but I was writing for VH1 and I did a couple of interviews with Kerry King and Tom Araya and it was going to be for print, you know, so I was just doing the interview, but I remember feeling just like so awkward and so stiff and just barely hanging on. Right. Whereas like now, if I did those interviews, they'd be 1,000 times better because I kind of understand the flow of it. And I'd say the one thing with my show, because it is a bit more like trying to establish an arc and kind of tell a certain story, is, man, we all go through the same shit. You know, it's amazing how many of artists where they have like these different eras of their careers and this doesn't work out, so they work on the next thing and they figure it out, and you know, and trying to find all those points of like, for the people listening to the show that are prospective musicians or creatives who are trying to make it, and go like, don't get discouraged, man. This shit happens to all of us, right? We all have these down points, or we all have this stuff that we got to work through. And yeah, it's cool to have that as a resource to go, okay, I have 100 stories from successful musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And what are the things that tie it all together in terms of, these are the principles you should follow if you want to kind of have any kind of career in this field. And it does make sense after a while when you kind of put it together.
I two things are going through my head right now, and one of them, they're not really connected, but back to John Bush for a second. Isn't it crazy that John Bush was almost the singer for Metallica?
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because,
did you guys touch on that at all?
a little bit, but I feel like that's something he's talked about quite a bit, actually. So I didn't want to, I always try to have a lot of empathy for the individual I'm talking to. So if I feel like someone, maybe they've done a bunch of interviews and it's like this one thing that they're constantly being asked about, I like go out of my way not to. Right. I want them to enjoy the interview, and you know how it is, right? When you have a record out and you've got 10 interviews in a row, and you're in your 8th interview in a row where they're asking you about the lyrics to that one song, right? Or whatever. You know, Phil's out of the band, right? Like you have to tell that story for the 12th time in a row, right?
Right.
And you can, and so it's like feeling that you want to avoid that. You know, I do, at least. And I want to, and I always find there's always other things and different ways of looking at stuff, because like I said, if someone listens to Josta, ROBB FLYNN, and Doc,
yeah, they don't want to hear the same interview.
Yeah. And and then when they know, oh man, I know I'm actually going to get a different vibe. Right. That's fucking cool.
Yeah.
And it's something I think about, because I would actually prefer not to talk to someone if they're doing the rounds. But if it's John Petrucci, what am I gonna say? Fucking no, hell no. Right.
You know, the crazier thing to me about that is that Hetfield was so insecure that he thought he needed another singer. You know,
I think
the thing that actually always blows my mind all these years later.
I will say though, I think technically he might be a better singer than Hetfield, like in terms of just physically sure. The things he can do.
Right.
Totally. But
he's a fantastic singer and a fantastic frontman. I mean, I saw them, Armored Saint, open for Metallica on the Ride the Lightning shows at the Kabuki in San Francisco, and I'm not even exaggerating this. Like, they very nearly blew them off the fucking face of the earth. I mean, John Bush in particular was a fucking lunatic and just running all over. He was awesome, you know, falling on the stage and drinking and singing, and like, it was fucking awesome. I mean, we were all watching like, holy shit, they're killer. And Metallica came out and were great, but like, there was kind of a crazy, chaotic, like punk rockness to John Bush that just made it a little more exciting, you know?
Well, that's probably why Metallica's interested. That's why Anthrax offered him the job. Is right. He's a unique and special talent, and it's one of the things that I realized preparing for the interview was going back and listening to those records and going like, they're even better than I remember.
Yeah, totally.
Right. Like there's like records that I kind of hadn't gone back and listened to a lot, like Volume 8 or Psalm 442.
Oh, okay. So,
Yeah, even Sound of White, like Sound of White Noise, I think is the one record that he kind of gets credit for, like just like because it went gold and the band was still doing really well. The other records I feel like are a little more unheralded. And then I went back and listened to them. I'm like, yo, there are just straight up bangers, like all time bangers on this on the record. Where I was like, dude, people, and it's kind of bums me out that Anthrax doesn't play any of those songs. I'm like, there's no reason why they shouldn't play some of those songs, you know? And I think to some degree, the reason is their fan base really seems to connect with the Joey stuff and maybe would feel like left field, maybe just coming with something, but What Doesn't Die, I don't think would feel left field. A Safe Home to me wouldn't be left field. I think
they should just lie and be like, this is off of Among the Living. You know?
Yeah.
This is off of Armed and Dangerous EP. Woo. And then play it and they'll be like, yeah.
But dude, it was the same thing when like Testament first started kind of getting Alex Skolnick back in the band, and they were doing those kind of tours really focused on the first few records. And I would get pissed off because I want to hear Low songs. I want to hear Gathering songs. I want to like, don't just like, there's
great songs. Yeah.
Well, no, but I actually personally like that era better.
Oh, okay.
You know? And I love the old stuff, but I'm like, Low is probably my favorite. Well, no, The Gathering was my favorite record, but Low is probably right after that. But all those, and I love those older songs, but it's not like one record in particular. It's more like I view the early stuff as like one big piece of material.
Okay.
And with great songs, but it's like I just want to hear everything a band has done. Like I really love those Metallica shows that we went to where they played a song from every record, right? Like that was fucking cool.
That was pretty wild, right?
Yeah, but they can do that.
Deep fucking cuts.
I know, but that's what I want to see. I don't just want to see Master of Puppets and Enter Sandman.
And
yeah, it's like
matters and yeah.
Dude, I remember I saw them. They did this Grammys after party at the Palladium in LA. And it was
Metallica?
the day, what's that? Metallica, yeah.
Okay.
And it was the day that James's mic went out. When they were singing playing with Lady Gaga.
Oh, right.
So it was like, you know, a shit show of a day, you know? And so they ended up showing late and they just did 45 minutes and they played every hit song and that was it. It was just like, Nothing Else Matters, Enter Sandman.
Okay, gotcha.
You know, Seek and Destroy. It was like the main songs they play at every show. And I was just kind of like, it was cool, but it just wasn't that psyched. Like I'm just all about the deep cuts with Metallica. Live.
The other thing that I was thinking about that's kind of going back to something that you said was that, you know, you were talking about the podcast and the premise of it. And, you know, you've got this catalog of musicians talking about their struggles, you know, now at this point. And that if, you know, you're kind of saying that if you know, if you're going through this, like we all go through this. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I got to say you know, we've been talking about Anthrax for some time now, but I'm going to continue to talk about Anthrax. But Scott Ian, this is back in the day. This is before podcasts existed. This is like a Metal Edge interview that he did, kind of during their this is probably the Stomp 442 record, or you know, some part of this era where Anthrax is kind of in a valley. You know, like as a lot of bands go through. A lot of bands go through valleys and, you know, peaks and valleys, and you know, the guy was just like, it wasn't condescending, but it was definitely like, what do you think went wrong? You know, like it was just like, it was pretty, I don't want to say it was harsh, but it was just like, whoa, like, that's that. And I remember reading it, and he gave such a fucking good answer. Like, it was such a,
what did he say?
It was just so scathingly honest. Like he was like, we fucked up, you know, like he was like, we got away from the thrash. We kind of got lost in what we were doing. We, you know, we had a slew of kind of like corny song, you know, he just really broke it down. And he was just like, you know, up until that point, I had never read an interview with a musician talking about what went wrong or the flaws or the bad choices they made, or that, you know, like it was it kind of like blew my mind, you know, like, and it really, like, I'd loved Anthrax up until that point, and I wasn't like I didn't not like Scott Ian. I didn't anything Scott Ian. I didn't really care about Scott Ian at all. I just knew he was Scott Ian. But after that, I was like, you know what, man, like, that dude's awesome. Like, it was just really, you know, it takes a lot to say that to the press. In an interview, you know, like most people would just go, what are you talking about? Like, we're still fucking crushing it. But, you know, like you know what I mean? Like, that's what people do. You know, it's like fucking, that's like one of the rules of fucking being in a band. Like, just fake it till you make it, right? Like, and I don't know. I gave him, he was on here a couple months ago, and I was like, you know, that interview really just like blew me away, and
I listened to the first
and really stuck with me for a long time. Like, stuck all these, you know, this is probably almost 20 years ago, and this I can still remember. You know, I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was just the feeling that it left me with, just such honesty, and going, yeah, and I'm probably going to go. There's going to be a time. I remember thinking that there's going to be a time when I'm in that dude's position. This ride's going to end somewhere. Like, it's not going to all be the gravy train. Like, it's going to stop, and people are going to whatever, talk shit or hate me or whatever, you know. And you know, in those times, I often thought back to that interview and was like, yeah, man, just remember what he said. And then look at that motherfucker now. Like, you know, they're playing fucking Yankee Stadium, and, you know, they're, you know, like,
well, I mean,
Game of Thrones. You know, like,
but there's a lot of similarities to me between Anthrax and Machine Head, because you're two bands who are willing to take risks.
Yeah.
You know, not every band is willing to do that. And so, and it's like, and I wonder if you were inspired by that, right? With your blogs, right? Where you would kind of like put it all out there and talk about this era or talk. And it's funny seeing you like almost evolve with like maybe like certain records you'll like kind of poo-poo, but then a few years later, like, no, what, that record is kind of sick. You know, kind of come back around on certain things. But dude, I remember just watching, it was like some documentary you put out about Through the Ashes, and like when you guys like didn't have a label, and like,
oh, right,
you were just talking about how rough it was, how like no one would cover the record, like you couldn't get, Revolver wouldn't even do like a review or anything, and it's just like, dude, it's just
they wouldn't do a review, they wouldn't do an interview, they would promise us, okay, listen, we'll give you an interview if you sell 30,000 records. Okay, so we sold 30,000 records. Well, we'll give you an interview if you sell 50,000 records. We're like, wait, okay, you know. So then we sold 50,000. Look, we'll give you an interview if you sell 75,000. You know, like, it kept on like the bar. They kept on moving the goalposts, and I'm just like, listen, you, like, what the fuck, you know? And then finally, like, we get to 75,000. Look, the record's too old. We're like, you motherfucker. You know, and then like the fucking Blackening comes out, and they like, all they do is they won't give us an interview for the Blackening, they only give us a review. I'm like, you know, like, it just, you know, the shit like that's just like, it was so fucking painful at the time, but it's just like how, you know, tragedy or comedy is tragedy over time.
Oh yeah.
So now, like, you're gonna look back at all this time of stuff you're going through right now, and it's gonna be really funny in like a year or two.
Yeah, but I'm saying
maybe like 5 years. You know,
I have this whole perspective though that I don't really have grand expectations about, I'm used to things happening, cresting, going down, and ending. Like, so like, if I just feel like anyone that has a career, any decent career in this industry, is kind of a miracle.
Yeah. You
know, especially if it's like an original band where you're kind of building it from the ground up. So just having just a shot to have you know, if I'm paying my bills and I'm doing okay, and it's not a crazy struggle, and, you know, I'm doing better than 99% of people in this industry. And that's kind of a cool thing. You know, it's not about necessarily, I'm sure there's that certain class of bands where it's pretty predictable about where they're at, and that they're very solid and very secure in their position, but not everyone's in that position. So you have to go, hey, this is pretty badass. And I don't know how it's going to end up, but that's okay, you know, because you kind of in the long arc, things tend to work out, right? Even, you know, I just have that kind of perspective with it. It's like, dude, I'm going on tour. That's sick. You know, like it's like, because I've gone on tour in 2 years. It's a privilege.
Don't you guys have like 7 #1 active rock singles or something?
Six. Yeah. This is our 6th.
That's
so
insane. That's so fucking awesome.
Hey man, really all the, you know, credit I think goes to our label and Jackie Kaiser at 10th Street, you know, really working it. And, you know, I think the songs definitely help. I think, you know, it does well with the format, and it's really the one thing I think we can hang our hat on right now is radio support. And so like the next thing is like going back to those towns that played the record, going, you know, making connections with the radio stations, doing acoustic performances, doing meet and greets. And, you know, that's kind of it just gives you enough juice to hopefully translate to something bigger outside of that. But it's a big deal. And I think especially with the new singer, there was, you know, I this one guy, like right when I think the song, it debuted at number 28, which is fucking high. Like it was the highest debut we ever had.
I think I haven't even, my highest charting. It was like 38. Like
it was like the fastest.
And that was 3 months of being on the charts.
So that was the fastest rising single we ever had. And we were like, and I posted that, and a guy goes, man, it would be number 1 if, you know,
right.
And I go, dude, this is 2 weeks. It just came out. I'm like, when it goes number 1, will I get an apology? And he goes, yes. So I didn't say if, I said when it goes number 1.
Nice.
And then it went number, and I kept that back in my head. As soon as it went number 1, I was like, where's that apology?
Like, you hit him up in the DMs, like, where's that apology, bitch?
No, I put in the comment because I pinned it. I pinned it. I was like, I want people to see this. And you know what? It's funny. A lot of people like that, it seems like they're talking shit, but it's like, I think a lot of those people just got caught up in the moment. Because I've had a lot of those people who are like, yo, I was hating, I was talking shit, but no, I listen to the record. It's actually sick. So a lot of times you got to take it with a grain of salt that it's just social media environments tend to kind of bring the worst out of people, but sometimes it's momentary and it's not necessarily whether they hate you or whatever. They're just, it is what it is, you know? And I have a very comfortable relationship with like kind of a certain amount of shit talking. I think is actually really fun and funny.
And funny, especially if it's funny, it's really good.
Oh, dude, like when like
if they make a funny joke about me, like I'm like, that was good, you dick.
yeah, dude, I literally took a comment someone made on Landgoat and made it like a meme, put it on a T-shirt. I thought it was so funny. You know, and it's like, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of true. He's kind of got me there. It was literally like when Bad Bulls first came out, our first video, and this guy goes, man, I'll give it up to Doc Coyle. That dude sure is forever committed to being in some band. I was like, man, I'm like, dude, and I put it on a meme and people went crazy. I put it on a T-shirt. It's fucking great.
That's a good one.
It is good, dude. Lamb Goat. It's the best. It gets ugly sometimes.
It does, but they're funny. God damn it, when they're funny, they're so fucking good.
Yeah, I'll take it. Now, I'll say this: no one really talked that much shit about God Forbid, but we were never that big. Like I've kind of noticed with like Bad, like right out of the gate, people talk a ton of shit on us. But I saw the numbers the band was doing. I was like, I guess people kind of talk shit about you when you're doing well,
right? Yeah, I mean, like, and you guys had a lot of success right off the bat. I mean, like, Zombies platinum, right?
Yeah,
that's the platinum single. Fucking crazy. I mean, that's fucking insane. Like,
yeah, but we don't have any other ones.
Second or third single, or was it your first?
Yeah, it was the first single.
Oh, fucking.
I mean, like radio single. I mean, we put out we had a couple songs,
tracks. Yeah.
But yeah. I mean. So I think something like that, it's like, it's a blessing and a curse, because it's this weird thing where the song is still bigger than the band, right? But I kind of started thinking about it. I was like, you know what? it's kind of, because if you look at our like monthly listeners, they're like insane, right? On Spotify. Like we're like in the top, you know, I'd say like 50 or 75 like rock, like hard rock bands. Like it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But a lot of it really is just that song, right? It's a lot of these window shoppers. But I was like, you know what though? They are stopping by the store.
Yeah.
So it does, you know, it's like, I was thinking, at some point I was thinking that you kind of look at a band like, oh, what did their last record sell? What did the last record stream? But I'm like, and that makes you think how big the band is. I'm like, but that's actually not true. How big the band is the kind of collection of their brand, right? The new record is just a new record, but people might look at Machine Head or Bad Wolves or Iron Maiden as just like, well, it's Iron Maiden. It kind of doesn't really matter what they put out now because I love Iron Maiden, right? And I was like, so it's really this weird thing where we're all sitting around trying to figure how big the band is, but no one really totally knows. Like, it's a weird thing. Like, you're like, well, what are we worth in this market? Or what are we, because we just haven't tested the waters yet. And we're about to find a lot of that stuff out.
It's crazy though, that isn't a bunch of those platinum sales. A lot of those are like iTunes downloads and stuff, right?
It's still,
which is crazy. Like,
yeah.
I don't need, like, that's just insane. Yeah.
But look at iTunes, right? Like, look at the top songs. It's Enter Sandman, and it's Don't Stop Believing, and it's Bohemian Rhapsody. It's like I just saw the statistic that something like 75% of all music consumption is old music.
I just saw that. Yeah. And I totally, you know, you think about it too, like, new bands have to compete with the fucking entire catalog of music that the world has ever, from Led Zeppelin to Beatles, to, you know, like. And
the likelihood is your shit is not as good as the Beatles and Led Zeppelin.
That's right. It isn't.
It isn't.
It just isn't. Accept that fact and, like, you know, be good with the little niche that you get.
Dude, it's hard, but it's a result primarily of like algorithmic self-sorting. Is that what happens is things become feedback loops.
Yes.
Right. So that, let's say you have your top 50 songs on Spotify, like all songs, right?
Right.
The producers and writers who are writing pop music will look at those 50 songs and go, oh, I need to make stuff like this in these keys, in this format, this, you know, kind of timbre, and using these instruments. So then those songs will get reinforced, and it becomes a circle of people emulating things because it responds to the algorithm, and the algorithm gives it more of what it wants. And it works a lot of that way with old music, because a lot of what these people are doing is actually going, oh, this old song, this Michael Jackson song has 800 million views. Let me copy that. And it's this weird thing of kind of having that access that it's like, yeah, if Thriller's on, I'm like, is the new Weeknd better than Thriller? Probably not. Even if it's good.
Yeah.
You know?
I tell you what, I got to say, I'm super annoyed with the Spotify algorithm right now. In fact, I'm not even annoyed. I'm fucking pissed off at it.
In what way?
I'm, like, for numerous reasons. I'm going to go on a little rant here.
Yeah, rant it up.
Yeah, fucking, we've got, you know, you're talking about, you know, the old music and the algorithm and all that stuff. So right now, you know, back in 1999, we put out a cover of Message in a Bottle on the Burning Red.
Mm-hmm.
Every Machine Head fan at the time pretty much hated it across the board. And we played it one time live, and it was a fucking dud of all duds, and we never played it again, and we've never ever played it again. I never even thought about it again. Like, it was, I didn't even want it on the goddamn record, but I got outvoted. Anyway, now all these years later, it's in our fucking top 10. For no fucking reason other than, I'm assuming that, like, Rhino, whoever the fuck owns, you know, Roadrunner now or whatever those songs are, is like putting it on a bunch of playlists or whatever. It's literally for probably over a year now, just hovering in our top 10. It's like number 6 or number 7. I'm like, look, no Machine Head fan, period, end of story, gives a fucking rat's ass about this song. Get it out of there. Get it out of our top 10. You know, right now, your zombie cover might not be as high as it was if it were not for the algorithm, you know, because I really feel, and then I started noticing it across like all of these other bands things where like if you did a cover of a popular-ish song back in the day, that song is now in your top 10. So now I got Hallowed Be Thy Name, which genuinely is a very beloved Machine Head cover that we did, but it's below Message in a Bottle. And I'm like, fuck that.
But here's the thing, and this is what you can't be certain about, that some of that is just organic, and that ultimately you're not in control. No, but I'm saying you're not in control of what people are connecting to. And
here's the thing, though. Not a single song from The Blackening is in the top 10. Not one.
Okay, but the
deep cut from The Burning Red? Come on.
Okay, but the top 10 is not just all the views in order of what has it's reflecting what's kind of getting the most activity currently.
Yeah.
So it's not, I don't think it's something that they control. It's just like I don't know.
It's fired as far as I'm concerned. It's fucking fuck your Spotify.
I think the people have spoken. Algorithm. The people have spoken. It needs to be in the set on that Amon Amarth.
Hell no. On the Amon Amarth tour.
You need to open with it and close with it.
That'll be the set. That'll be the stage set. A giant bottle. They got the Viking ship. We got the giant bottle.
Or you could have the bottle with the ship inside it. One of those things.
I'll just have giant vodka bottles on either side of the stage. That's our prop.
Listen,
we'll just periodically lean down and drink out of them and then put them back.
You never had a meeting with like Grey Goose? Do some sponsorship stuff?
You know what? I've reached out to them.
And
I was like, I'm a decades long champion of your product. I still drink it to this day. It is my favorite vodka. And yeah, fucking sponsor my podcast and give us free vodka.
Still waiting on the email back?
I'm still waiting on that email back. God damn it. What I really want to do is I want to make Imperium vodka with Grey Goose, collab Machine Head Grey Goose. That's my ultimate goal. The free fucking whatever. Fucking.
I'm ready.
I digress.
Let's do it.
We're now going off on a tangent.
No, I love it.
Yeah, I don't. But I don't know. I don't know if I just don't. I don't buy it. I don't think it's good. You know, like another thing, let me ask you this. This is another thing that's super annoying to me. And, you know, before all the news aggregators go, you know, picking this up and like, oh, ROBB FLYNN went and dissed this guy, you know, so Ghost Domain, who is, let me just say this first and foremost, I love Ghost Domain. This shit is right up my alley. I am, longtime hip hop fan, and I've been waiting for the return of like dark, fucked up, evil note hip hop and fucking crazy sounds and more like soundscapey, like 90s fucking East Coast rap. Been waiting for it, you know. So this shit's right up my alley. I'm total fan, but he's had the #1 song on Spotify, #1 metal song for 14 weeks now. Mm-hmm. And now this new Kid Dracula or some shit just came out. Another straight up rap. These are just straight up rap tracks. There's no guitars, no real drums, not even heavy singing. It's now in the top 10, probably going to be #1. And I'm like, what are you doing, Spotify? Like I said, big fan of Ghost Domain, but it's not metal.
I mean, I listen to his record and I think culturally it's metal, like, and there is guitars and there's stuff on there that sounds like Marilyn Manson to me.
Is there? I haven't heard that.
Yeah. I mean, he's screaming on tracks.
Screaming. Yeah, for sure.
So, and it's like dirty, ugly sounds.
It is.
That is, you know, I mean, I think
videos
it's kind of
badass. Videos are sick.
Well, here's the thing. If you're a metal band, right, you get the #1 song on the Spotify chart. I mean, you don't get like a prize in the mail. Like, who get, like, ultimately it's like, did someone like, we got #1, and then you have like a parade.
What's confusing to me is why the fuck is this in the metal chart?
I think it's good for metal. I think, you know what? Here's why it's good. All right. If some kid is a Ghost Domain fan and that is called metal, and somehow that feeds him to another algorithm that leads him to listen to that band Horror, which leads him to Korn or something. I think it's ultimately good. I think any of this stuff
I think his success is good. I think all of it's good. I think him using metal imagery and, you know, he's got like a black metal logo now. And like, I think it's all good. I just don't, that's not metal to me.
Sure. I mean, that's fine.
Guitar.
There is guitars.
I guess what constitutes metal is kind of where the overall picture is. I just feel like Spotify's fucking that all up too.
Well, I mean,
they got their shitty algorithm with my goddamn song that no one gives a fuck about. And then they got that clogging up the metal. Now they got rap tracks clogging up the metal chart.
Well, are you gonna
stick metal tracks in the hip hop chart now?
Why not? I'm down.
I hope so.
Let's do it.
Bad Wolves put it in the new fucking rap chart.
Are you on team # delete Spotify? You're like, me and Neil Young, Joni Mitchell, we going on tour together. The delete Spotify tour.
All right. What do you think about that? The anti-Spotify. No, I still got Spotify.
Oh no.
What do you think about all that?
It's funny. Because I'm gonna record.
Wade into the controversy.
Oh, so I'm gonna talk. We're actually gonna do a monologue on this in my podcast in a couple hours. But I think this is one of the dumber culture war things. And to me, this is all culture war. This is all about whose side are you on? And most of the sides are reflexive. They're not actually thought out intellectual processes. In my point, I think people go, Rogan's my guy, so I'm on team Rogan. Or people go, I'm on team COVID safety, so that's my guy, or whatever. That's usually what I see, and everything is a reflection of that. My point is, my view is this. It's Neil Young's thing is pretty dumb because it was never going to work, right? So Rogan has the power because the immense audience. His show is just that big. It is literally David versus Goliath. Like they spent the $100 million or $300 million on Rogan because he's bringing that many people to the platform and he's worth that much. So Neil Young ain't Kanye. He's not Taylor Swift. He's not, Drake. He does not have that much market share where his protest was ever going to work. So it's pretty. So I don't know if he thought it was going to work or if he was just protesting because he wanted to protest, right? And the thing is, I think the problem is people go, I'm against censorship. I'm like, but let's say Spotify dropped Joe Rogan. He would just, like, he was on his podcast was out there before Spotify. Like, it's like his show would cease to exist. You just wouldn't watch it on Spotify. Like, who gives a fuck, right? Like, it literally, there is no downside. And then you get, the funny thing is like, you get people, there's this new trend to me where people actually fight for the people with all the power and all the money, right? So it's like Spotify is people like, we need to fight for Rogan because he's against corporate media. I'm like, Spotify is a corporation, publicly traded. They are corporate media. And if he's the biggest podcaster, he is media and he's the biggest one. So how is he not corporate media?
Right.
Right? Like it's like this kind of built-in hypocrisies where it's like, and half of these artists will tell you how much they hate Spotify, but now they're on team because of their team. I'm on team this. It's like, you know what it is? It's like, do I think Joe Rogan should be kicked off Spotify? No. Do I think Neil Young has the right to do a dumbass protest that ain't gonna work? Yes. It's his right, right? Like, that's what protest is about. Like, and people, no, it's about freedom. I'm like, okay, so you're saying your band, because you love freedom, you love, Joe Rogan's my man, right? Freedom. Would you play a festival with a neo-Nazi band? And if you go, no, I'm like, oh, but what happened to freedom? I thought you were for freedom. Oh, no. You're only for freedom when it's with the person you like. And the thing is, the difference between the modern approach and philosophy is that the kind of cultural left is really kind of engaged with this idea of deplatforming and going, hey, who should we give a platform? Who should we allow an audience? And at the point of it, it goes, hey, is Joe Rogan spreading disinformation? And I think you could probably say in many cases, the answer is yes. That like, and the problem is people don't look at the context, right? They don't go, it's not, dude, Joe Rogan, I would not have a podcast if it wasn't for Joe Rogan. I'm a fan of Joe Rogan, but Joe Rogan has disappointed me in terms of how he's evolved through the years, where it's like, and Finn McKenty brought this up. He's like, it's like sometimes someone else makes a good point. You go, all he fucking talks about is COVID now. All he talks about is vaccines. All he talks about is math. It's like, dude, once you,
yeah,
it's just like, dude, it's the same thing with like Bill Maher's show. After a while, I just couldn't watch it. It's like, I get it. You're rich and you want to do what the fuck you want to do. And yes, do I want to wear a mask anymore? No. Do I want to fucking have these things shut down? No. But I'm just like sick of just hearing about it. Like, dude, if you don't want to be taken as an authority on this shit, then stop talking about it. Stop having doctors on every fucking week. Stop,
right.
You know, like you're making yourself an authority by saying, I'm a health expert. I'm in shape. I do this. I take these vitamins. So it's like, yeah, people follow you. So I think it's this thing of how do we figure out how to deal with that is something I don't have all the answers to. And I think the way Neil Young handled it is the best way? No. But he's allowed to do that. He's allowed to go, I don't want my music on there with this person. You know, and then some people are like, well, so it's okay for him to do that. What about R. Kelly? His music is on there. Chris Brown's music is on there. Bill Cosby has. So I'm like, so you're okay? I'm like, so you're okay with your band? So do you know what I'm saying? Like, we can play this game forever, but it's mostly about tribalism. It's that people go, I'm on team Neil Young, and I'm on team Joe Rogan. And I don't think people put a lot of thought behind it. You know, so it's like, I think everyone has a good point. And I actually thought Joe Rogan, even though he said a couple dumb things in there, I thought his response video was actually really good. You know, and I thought it seemed thoughtful. It seemed like he did want to do a little better with that. And I thought it was a good response. And I like the fact that he was like, I'm not mad at Joni Mitchell. I'm not mad at Neil Young. Because, dude, the same thing when Alex Jones was talking shit about Joe Rogan. He's like, I'm not mad. Like, he's actually very cool with that. With like, he can kind of take criticism and not take it personally. And I think that's pretty cool. So, but I just think this line in the sand, you know, like I kind of want to like, I want to talk to David Draymond a little bit. Because David Draymond's like, we need to stop the division amongst us all. He's like, but I'm team Joe Rogan.
I know, right?
He's like, Joe Rogan is right. But we need to stop it.
I was like, wait, hold up. Just hold on.
I gotta bust his balls when I see him. You know.
Totally. That was hilarious.
But I think
that's exactly what I thought when I read it. I was like, oh my God.
You know, I'm gonna kind of I'll kind of give a probably more calm version of that on my podcast, give my thoughts. But I think these things are set up to, dumb thing happens, then you or me or David Draymond says something about it, then that becomes the story. Then in the comments, it's just a bunch of people like.
So you wouldn't take your songs off of Spotify because of Joe Rogan disinformation?
No, I hear what you understand about me. I'm not an activist. Right. I really have become really fucking apathetic. I kind of feel like nothing matters, and and all this shit, motherfucker. Yeah, I'm gonna stop racism. I'm like, no, you're not. No, you're not. This dude, like I saw this football player. He had "end racism" on his fucking helmet.
Right.
I'm like, you know what? I think that guy solved racism with his helmet. Great. No, I'm super. I really don't think anything matters. And there's some, and I think I'm actually writing an article with this about Outburn, about like now every band, right? Like you're more weird if you're a band who's not political. You know, like everyone's got something to say. All right, I got my, you know, I'm for freedom.
I'm for freedom.
Like, you know, I have some friends, you know, so hosts don't take this personally, but it's like if I hear another rock metal song about how much cancel culture sucks, I'm just gonna like throw up on myself.
Dude.
It's like, but the problem isn't that they're making it, is that they think they're the only ones. They're like, you know what? No one has the balls to say this. I'm like, literally everyone's saying it. and PC
I gotta
is
say, the Kid Rock song was so beyond stupid, but fucking I laughed my ass off at that video.
oh, but that's the point of it. Like,
I laughed my ass off at that video. I was like, this song is, I'll never listen to this again. It's so dumb, but like, fuck, that was a funny video.
But dude, something like that works because the people who are who it's placating to are going to absorb it almost as like, it feels like a transgressive move to like, this is my rebel music, right?
Yep.
And then it trolls all the people who hate it, who will then write articles about it and dunk on it on Twitter. And all you're doing is promoting it.
Totally. I was just like, all right, if you hate the song so much, stop resharing it on Twitter. I was like, guess who's not going to reshare this? Me.
Yeah. No, but it's troll music.
It is.
And it's effective because Kid Rock is still really fucking famous and still, you know, that dude goes on tour. He's fucking selling out.
How I'm betting $100 that motherfucker's vaccinated. I got $100 on him being vaccinated.
I have no idea.
Totally rich. He's a totally rich white boy. That motherfucker's, and he's been rich his whole life.
But that's the kind of point. If you're rich, you kind of don't need to be vaccinated because if you get sick, you're just going to get the monoclonal antibodies and you're going to get the IV.
He's vaccinated.
I don't know. I don't care because it's like
all those dickheads on Fox News who are vaccinated and then screaming about fucking vaccinations. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Like, you can't even walk into your goddamn building without being vaccinated.
But that's the whole thing about this is that I just can't wait for this period of time to be because all we did was trade one thing for another. It was like, so you're like pro lockdown or anti-lockdown, you're pro mask or anti-mask, you're pro vaccine or anti-vaccine. And the vaccine thing is like, I'm actually perfectly fine with the vaccine passports. Like, I know a lot of people don't like it. I'm perfectly fine with it. Mm-hmm. But the reason why I don't like it is because it creates the two sets of people. And it's like, and it's very black and white. Either you're with us or you're against us on either version of it, right? And it's like, it's just very difficult to go, we can...
But that's like everything, you know, like driver's license or seatbelts. You know, you might not remember seatbelts, but like, dude, when seatbelts became like you have to wear seatbelts, oh my God, people lost their fucking...
I know, but we didn't...
older than you.
But we didn't have Twitter. We didn't have Twitter back then.
I know, right.
We didn't have podcasts. We didn't have...
Yeah, they just had like the local news and it would just go into some local news void and then it disappear forever.
Okay, but guess what? If you don't have your seatbelt, right, and you get a ticket, that's not really controversial. You just get a ticket, whatever, you deal with it.
No, but I'm saying that people were flipping out.
Yeah.
Like they were saying the same shit about like, oh, it's fucking, this is Nazi Germany and fucking da-da-da-da-da. Like, I mean, just melting the fuck down. And it did become seatbelters against non-seatbelters.
Yeah.
You know, and for a couple of years there, it was a giant fucking thing. And now I bet you most people don't even think, like, I feel weird without a seatbelt. And I got to say, back then, I felt weird having to put a seatbelt on all the time. Because when I was a kid, like, I don't even think I ever used my parents would just throw me in the back of the car and my dad would drive all over and fucking his van would catch on fire and fucking, like shit, crazy shit. Nobody would ever be seatbelted, In fact, it felt safer to be unseatbelted because my dad had one of those old vans, like 70s vans, like the fucking, like the Scooby-Doo van that like had the engine in the middle between the two seats. And like I would pop up and that engine would catch on fire. So like it was safer to not be seatbelted because you could just jump out of your seat when it caught on fire.
Jesus Christ. Well, it's just I think that division now, so to kind of make it a blanket thing, is like safety, freedom, right? Yeah. And so the problem is like when you like if I think not that you say the problem is, I say my disagreement is especially within our community, because I think the rock and metal world culturally is kind of about being against authority, right? Like that's kind of its roots, and that's something that's kind of consistent. And whether you want to say hardcore is part of that, and punk rock is against that, it's kind of being nonconformist. So it completely tracks to me when you have the kind of person that would sing in a metal band or a rock band is probably going to be someone who's like, I don't want someone to control me. I'm gonna do. We're not gonna take it, right? Like so that completely makes sense to me. But I just think this one thing is just unique. Like it's very difficult to compare a pandemic to other things that are not necessarily public health crises, and because of that, it's going to be a temporary thing, right? It's going to be like, here was what was horrible, here's what was the peak, and here's when we're on our way out of it. And it'll be like a 5-year thing of where it's something that's big in our lives, and it'll eventually fade to the background until the next fucking pandemic, which hopefully we're no longer here for.
Right.
So because of that, you have to kind of rearrange, I think, the way you think about these things, because it's like, it's just about this one thing. And I get it. Some principles for some people are that, well, a principle is something you apply across the board, which I totally get. But we also have to be improvisational based on the circumstances, right? And so it's like, to me, it's a spectrum between a free society and a safe society, and we have to figure out what that perfect balance is. At any one point, it can't just be, you can't be like, I'm for freedom, but I'm like, but you're also for safety because you have like 700 guns, so you kind of care about safety too, motherfucker. Don't act like you don't care about safety.
Was that the when you did that, you had Phil Labonte on, like a gun debate with Phil Labonte, right? From all the
a while ago. Yeah.
Was that the end result? Was like, you would care about safety?
No. That was, no. I think
I love that you engage, some certain people in that respect. You guys had like you had a couple of people debate like elections and stuff like that too.
I've kind of gone away from it though, man, because I feel like we're not, I think in order to have those conversations, go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think to have those conversations, we have to be like, if you have a differing perspective, I actually want to learn from your perspective and have to be like open to hearing your perspective. That hopefully once we leave that conversation, it's not necessarily about me changing my mind, but I have a fully formed idea of and so I'll have more consideration when I'm thinking about the entire scope of a particular issue. And it's not that I'll have Phil to talk about stuff anytime. I love Phil. But it's just, I personally have gotten like exhausted from these conversations because to me, culture war is not substantive. It's about, culture wars are mechanisms to kind of sway public opinion, right? And because, back in the day when I was coming up, wedge issues, it was like a few things. It was abortion, it was guns, it was this thing of like, I'm going to find something that's so emotionally kind of provocative that I can actually get someone to vote on just this one issue. Right now, everything is a wedge issue, right? Everything is you're either on this or that, and you can't, there's and so it's, and we use these pop culture things as little proxy wars. But where do you stand on the Joe Rogan thing? Where do you stand on the Chappelle thing? Where do you stand? It's like, this is where we're at. Like, it just seems counterproductive, and it further embeds people in the position they were already in. And then in situations like this, where it's like, I don't want to lose Joe Rogan and Dave Chappelle to the right, because the left just goes, well, you don't agree with me on these two things, so we hate you now, or you're alt-right, or you're, it's like, it's so dumb, where we can't go, no, some people, it's like, some people are conservative on these things and liberal on these things and everything in between. And we're not just the summation of our team, and I get it. I'm, being a centrist in this current environment, like, both sides hate you the most. You damn fence sitter, you damn, so it's like, usually it's true. Cause like I said, I'm I'm center left, but I look at things, you know, people on the left do all the time. I argue with them all the time too. Like, it's not, everyone's wrapped up in hyperbole. Everyone's in slippery slopes. Everyone's like, you know, fighting for some existential battle that they think will end the fucking world. And it's like when the stakes are that high and people that invested, it's hard to talk.
It's interesting that you say that, because in some ways that's been probably a huge part of most of your life. You're a centrist, you know, you're a mixed race family, you know, so you're not white, but you're not black.
And I'm a Libra.
Or you're too white or you're too black.
Yeah. No. I mean, and I think, yeah, and that's applied to my band, right? Being a hybrid band, being metal and hardcore, and my whole life is trying to exist in different worlds to, you know, being born in an urban environment and touring and seeing different environments. And, you know, but I've just always thought that it's really important to live empathically, right? Like, I'll see people make kind of generic or stereotypes about Midwestern people or Southern people in a way that if I tour and I'm like, those are my fucking fans, bro, and they're actually nice people. Like, it's not what they're just from down south, they're rednecks or they're dumb, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's one thing to do it, but if you're not around people and you only version you have of that is a stereotype that someone who doesn't like them created, and that goes for anything, right? The metropolitan elitist liberal latte sipping, right? Like, if you're not around that environment, then you're going to have this idea of people. It's like, no, people are fucking people. It's like, you know, I say the people in the red states are way more liberal than you think they are, and the people in the cities are way more conservative than you actually think they are if you actually talk to them. But, you know, like I said, it's just this fucking team thing, man. It's just it because, you know what, when you have a team, you don't have to think, because you already get your opinion handed to you from your favorite, you know, influencer or podcaster. I don't even say the media anymore, because it's like, no, my here's the new thing actually that motherfuckers piss me off. They're like, you know what? They're like, the media, they're dividing you. And I was like, and that's this populism shit, where it says, where what you do is you go, nothing is ever your fault. It's always the media did this to you. I'm like, you know, people can choose what to listen to and what to read. Like, there's no like law saying you got to watch Fox News, or you got to watch Rachel Maddow, or you got to listen to Joe Rogan, or you got to listen to Howard Stern. Like, you can consume whatever you want. That's on you. It's like saying you own, like, you don't have any control over what you eat. Like, you don't have to go to McDonald's. Right. You can get some celery, motherfucker. Like there should be personal responsibility. The media is dividing you. I'm like, no, you're dividing you because you hate other motherfuckers. You know, everyone hates everything. Motherfuckers hate the government. They hate Hollywood. They hate schools. They hate the military. They hate cops. They hate what else? People hate everything. They're not happy with anything. There's big tech, social media, Elon Musk, they're mad at everyone about everything all the time. When the truth is, most shit ain't that bad. We're just a bunch of fucking complainers who got to blame everything that's wrong in your life. It's because capitalism, or it's because socialism, or it's because identity politics, or whatever. Like, yo, you know what? Relax. I wish everyone just fucking relax for a minute.
Motherfuckers need to jerk off more and watch you porn.
I mean,
motherfuckers need to get laid more.
I mean, maybe.
That's what they do. Dudes need to get laid more.
Yeah, well, I mean,
do.
Well, I mean, they say people are having less sex.
Chicks need some good dick.
Good dick, or some good lady love.
Or good, some good lady love, or both.
Yeah, I mean, listen, you're probably right. But yeah,
those motherfuckers go so crazy in fucking the Middle East, they can't jack off. I'm like, I'd be going crazy too.
I mean, are they not? Are they just lying? They're just telling nobody they're not?
I think they are lying.
Yeah, I feel like that'd be
a lot of people who are over there, and they're just like, yeah, we do. They got
Yeah,
they got their little thing. They can go on the internet all incognito and shit.
it's like I'll be back. I'm going to the bathroom. I'll be back. I'll be back.
Take me back to growing up. I'd like to, you know, I don't know how much you want to explore this, but like, you know, the you mixed race and, you know, kind of growing up as a kid and what that's like. Is anybody in your family musical? Like, are your parents musical?
Yeah, you didn't know this?
No.
Yeah, my dad is a piano player, jazz musician, classical musician.
Yes, I knew that he was.
Yeah, my mother was a singer, DJ. I mean, yeah, my house was.
DJ.
What's that? DJ. Well, yeah.
Wow, like on the radio?
No, like you know, doing parties and stuff,
right.
Making mixtapes and shit. But that was later. She started out as a singer and then became a DJ. Like my mother, you know, was 69 years old DJing. Like,
wow, that's fucking badass.
But I lost both my parents in the past couple of years. But
really
they
tough,
they both died.
Sorry to hear that.
Super young. I appreciate it. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in a very musically artistic kind of just, you know, I mean, I remember my first memories are like being at my parents' rehearsal because they played in the same band, jazz band. Just being at rehearsals and shows and kind of just my dad, you know, he got up every day and practiced piano and playing music, playing Miles Davis and playing Duke Ellington and you know, just and my father
was he signed? Like he put out records and stuff?
No, I mean, he didn't really do a lot of original music. Every now and again, he would like play stuff, but he, I think, viewed himself. So my dad had a teaching degree. And so before he started teaching piano full time, he was like a substitute teacher and doing stuff like that. So I think he just saw himself more as an educator and kind of like he like my dad he would just read books constantly and constantly was learning other music. I think he just saw himself as like a accumulator of knowledge to some degree and just kind of like this is a professional absorber. And then he'd take that and then teach other people. So he was, even as he was teaching his students and stuff, he was constantly teaching me about history, teaching me about the world and culture and art, you know, like, so my favorite movies, you know, like I would see with my dad, just him, you know, and I kind of grew up in an environment that wasn't very, I never felt like adults were trying to like shelter me from anything, you know, like I very early age watching rated R movies and just weird, it was never like a thing. Like I go to my grandparents' house, I'm really watching like, you know, Nightmare on Elm Street and Death Wish 3 and shit. Like no one, I don't know, like, and I don't think I'm a weirdo because of it or anything, but you know, and I was always around older people, you know, even like me and my brother, when we were getting into comic books and we'd always have like friends that were like 8 years, 10 years old. I don't know why. It just seemed like we always were getting, and when you're around that, you're just constantly being, you're just getting an extra leg up. You know, I just remember being around people that into, you know, seeing anime, you know, like Akira, when it literally didn't even have subtitles. You're just watching it in Japanese. You don't even understand the story. You're just like
sick. When
it was still like import or like, so things like that, just, you know, so it's like, and it's same thing with like getting into metal is I had this friend Attila who gave me, he was like 21 or 19 and me and my brother were like 13, but we hung out with him and played video games and he gave us all his old tapes because it was CDs were coming in. So he was rebuying his collection on CD. He's like, I don't need these tapes anymore. And it was like, that was the first time I heard Violence. That was the first time I heard Creator, Sepultura, you know, King Diamond, like just like, that's like a, Testament. It was like a musical education and someone's just giving it to you. But if, you know, cause I didn't have like an older brother, my brother basically the same age, you know, in terms of like someone to hand down music. And it was like that for everything, you know, just being around older people who would just show you things and being where, you know, my dad was, you know, we ended up living with my dad. He was basically a single parent.
Parents split up? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, they split when I was like 5 and then we lived with our mother till I was like 10. But it just wasn't a great environment. You know, she didn't really, you know, she was a bit absentee and it was, you know, it was pretty rough, you know, like lights wouldn't be on, food wouldn't be in the
Oh shit.
In the fridge, and she'd beat us sometimes.
Was she out partying, or what was she doing?
Yeah, I think, I don't think I knew that then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't think she was very responsible enough to really do the full job. So eventually my dad got custody, and and he was just working all the time, because he would teach piano and then do weddings and stuff on the weekends. And so it was kind of like a very like raised by the village kind of thing, because we'd have like neighbors who would take care of us, and it was cool because New Brunswick, it was like an urban environment, but you had Rutgers University there. So you had a lot of culture there. You had art museums, and you had plays, and you had just a lot of down filter culture and like investment into like the local schools. And me and my brother were like in advanced classes. So I really felt we got a leg up education wise, despite it being kind of like an urban environment. We just had a lot of good people around us, that took care of us and showed us things, and had great relations with both of my grandparents and stuff. And so it's this weird thing where I don't have like some dark childhood perspective, even though there's certain things I can go, oh, that wasn't, in hindsight, oh, that wasn't normal, or that wasn't considered like a kind of middle class nuclear family upbringing, whereas like sometimes I'll hear like people, they'll sound distraught behind their parents being like divorced, and I'm like, it's weird to me that someone thinks they're entitled to have their parents be together, because I guess I'm used to a non-conventional home environment, and I swear to God, from a young age, we were just kind of on our own. Like, I guess that traditional like latchkey generation of just like, you come home and kind of do your thing, and your parents aren't really around. You make chicken nuggets in the fucking oven, and you're kind of like very self-sufficient, to some degree. But I feel like we had great influences around us, be it neighbors or family friends, or my grandparents were great influences as well.
Is your dad a weed smoker? Like, he's in a jazz band, like a lot of those jazz cats smoke weed all day.
He didn't start smoking weed as far as I do. I mean, I know it's funny, like as like your parents get older, they start telling you like all the wild shit. My dad was talking about doing blow and fucking party, and I was like, God damn, like, dude, my dad and my uncles, they used to work at a pharmacy back in like the 60s. Okay. And these motherfuckers stole medical grade cocaine.
Oh my God.
Like pure coke. And they were, and so
amazing.
And obviously they didn't tell me this to me till I was like damn near 38 years old, right?
Yes, of course.
And to hear my uncle, like he was reminiscing about this cocaine, like he was talking about his first girlfriend, like his first love. He's like, Doc, this cocaine, you can't. But it's funny, like you only hear about that later. But my dad was a pretty big drinker, but he didn't really start smoking weed, as far as I knew, until like, me and my brother kind of like moved out.
Oh, okay.
When he chilled out.
He kept that away from you guys, and
I just don't think he really smoked weed when he just drank. But my dad was like an alcoholic when we were younger. I think the stress of being a single dad and trying to like just get through that took its toll. But yeah, he literally, when he passed away, there was weed there, like unsmoked weed. I'm like, man, it's a waste of weed, Dad.
Out his house.
Yeah, like my brother took it.
Your brother Dallas took it.
I was like, God damn, I was gonna take that weed. God damn.
So you had a pretty that's a pretty free upbringing. I mean, like, you're kind of just able to do anything. I mean, assuming that's why you got like into metal. You start going to metal shows pretty young, right?
No, I didn't go to shows. That was the weird thing, was like I probably started playing guitar and discovering metal around 12, 13, rock and metal. But it wasn't for a few years, until we started playing. Like literally, me and my brother just played in our house. That's all we did. And we didn't play with anyone. It was just me and him playing
guitar,
playing Metallica, playing Pantera, playing Slayer. And then until we met up with Corey and Byron, because our best friend, John, we used to draw comics with, he's like, oh, my cousins, they they jam over here. And we just, my dad like dropped us off and we're little combo amps, and they're like, and then that was it. And probably that same year, actually, 96, we went to go see Pantera, White Zombie, and Deftones. And that was the first show.
Wow.
And then within like a few months of that, we went to our first hardcore show. And it was Candiria and this band For the Love Of, Train of Thought, Clubber Lang, all these local bands. And that was like I remember going to the Pantera show and being like, like I said, we were from the city, a majority Black, Latino environment, almost no white people. Like going to a Pantera show felt like you were going to like a Klan rally. Like it was legitimately scary. No, we thought like we wouldn't be like allowed.
Okay.
There. Like that's how we felt. We went there, we had our Pantera shirt, so we bought it from down by the shore. And I remember we had like really terrible seats. It was loud, but it was still like fucking badass. And then when we went to the hardcore show, it like changed our lives. It was just like a whole new environment, because you'd see a band play and they'd be sick, and then 5 minutes later you're like talking to the guy about like, oh man, you guys are cool, and you're buying their demo. You know what I'm saying? Like it felt so different.
Welcoming.
Yeah, and it was the first environment really my entire life that I felt comfortable in, where I was like, oh, these like, and that was like the first, like when I was in my entire time in school, and at that time me and brother went from in the inner city in New Brunswick, we went to a private school called Gill St. Bernard's. And that was like very upper class kids, and kind of this environment of mostly Black and Latino environment, where I didn't really feel comfortable, didn't really feel like I fit in, because I'm listening to Megadeth and they're listening to Biggie Smalls. And then I go to this wealthy environment around mostly white kids who are also listening to Biggie Smalls.
You're like, why is everybody listening to Biggie Smalls?
Oh no, because he was
why
was
aren't
great.
they listening to White Zombie?
He was great. I should, I listened to hip hop back then though. I was like probably like, really, and listen to Dre and Bone Thugs and Harmony and all that stuff.
So much good stuff.
Yeah, I loved everything, but I connected more. I was playing guitar.
Moose and days of underoos. One of the best lines ever.
Dude, so much Cypress Hill. I mean, so much Onyx, so much good stuff. Naughty by Nature.
Onyx was killing it on the East Coast too back then.
Hell yeah. That's great. But anyway, so it was like the thing about never really fitting in, and then discovering the hardcore scene. It's still like most of my best friends and everything came out of that environment. And obviously, God forbid, which we didn't become God forbid for a couple more years, but getting involved in that scene like was the catalyst for really me having a career at all. Was that whole scene, because just, dude, there's so much creativity, man, in that world. And you do go to these shows and every band would be different. It'd be like, here's a emo band, and here's a deathcore band, and here's a straight edge hardcore band, and here's a metalcore band, and and I just thought that was great.
Candiria was so like, I loved Candiria. We played a bunch of shows with them back in the day, and I mean that must have been pretty cool seeing a Black person in a hardcore band for you, right?
Yeah, but you know what? It wasn't weird to me at the time, because my environment, I feel like the New York, New Jersey was very mixed, so even like, going to hardcore shows, you would just see it was a more diverse environment, especially going to New York, man. Going like the first time Godfrey went to play like Brooklyn and stuff, and it's like, it was very diverse. So it was, and because we were who we were, we just felt like, I don't know, I never felt limited by who I was. I was just like, oh, I like this, I'm going to check that out. It wasn't like, oh, I'm not supposed to be here or whatever. But, to me, that was Candiria was a reflection of that diversity that already kind of existed, and especially when you listen to their music, it was so culturally irreverent, right? Like, jazz is Black music, right? Hip hop is Black music. So it's like, and then you also had E-Town Concrete, which even though there wasn't any Black or Hispanic people in that band, it felt culturally connected to what was going on, which is that hip hop culture was completely infused in to like what was going on in like the urban environment. And that's what I kind of perceived the areas in New Jersey I lived in to be, as like the streets, you know. So you were seeing other street people. And that's the funny thing about, I would say that about Jersey at that time is like, you hang out with, God forbid, how much we would say the N-word. And it's like, because that's literally how everyone spoke, whether you were black or not. Like, that's how everyone spoke. And it never dawned. It wasn't until like years later where people were like, you can't say that because you're white. I'm like, dude, that never dawned on anyone. Like, this is how everyone talks. Like,
right. I mean, like Steve Lagudi talks about that all the time. Like that, like, he was just like, dude, that's just, you just started saying it after a while because like that's all anybody said.
Yeah, but it is how we grew up, and I get it's only when you're out of that environment.
Dave Chivari's like that too. Like, you know, like,
oh yeah,
you know, like,
yeah, but that's, dude, that's what I'm saying. So it's when you're around those dudes, especially like the, you know, when you're around the Fury of Five dudes and, you know, all the, you know, the E-Town dudes, it's like, yo, that's just how it was. So it's funny, especially now in a more kind of politically correct environment, where there's a lot more kind of policing of language. But you know, it is how you grew up is how you grew up. You know, it is. And I'm not against it. And when I'm around my people, trust me, I still talk like that. You know what I'm saying? Look, I'll drop a couple on here right now.
I think E-Town's one of those bands too that, like, you know, they were pretty. I think they were important to a lot of bands coming out from that era. You know, like they were.
Yeah, dude, they were huge. Dude, they're still big.
Yeah, are they still big? Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, they're big in the tri-state area, and like they'll go to Europe, and people still love it. It's kind of a really unique career because they kind of realized as a national touring act, it wasn't really successful on that end, but regionally, they crush it, and people go nuts saying it's kind of insane. Yeah. But I still think they're one of those bands, like the music is pretty undeniable, and they should have gotten big nationally, internationally, just for whatever reason. There was bad timing or wrong label. Who knows?
Right? Yeah, who knows? But definitely, I mean, I think that, you know, even in your formative years, you're sitting there, you know, checking them all these years later. Like, I think that, you know, they deserve. I think more bands were probably influenced by them than maybe would even admit. You know what I mean? Like, I think some of those earlier hardcore bands probably saw E-Town and were like, fuck, this is sick. You know, the grooves
what was ironic about it, and I think the reason why they liked us was like, you got all these white dudes playing hip hop and hardcore, and then it's this black dudes playing that was the ironic was the black dudes in the scene were playing the purest version of metal.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying?
White dudes in the scene are playing, you know, the closest to hip hop of anybody. Yeah.
And it was this thing of like, oh, that's kind of cool because it's not about who you are, it's just about what you're into, you know. And so like we didn't sound anything like E-Town, but we would play shows all the time, and it worked because it's like, yo, this is what it's about. It's like you're doing your thing, but it all works.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty amazing to me. Like, what are the chances of like two black dudes meeting two other black dudes to start a metal band? I mean, it's very unusual. Like, it's not.
But it's all it doesn't seem
unusual. Like now that you guys became it, but like, I think at the time, if you would have thought that was something possible. And
but I think it's about your environment.
Tall ass white bass player.
Yeah, I mean, but it's about your environment, right? It's like it's proximity, right? You know, if you start a band in high school, you're going to start the band with people in your school.
Yeah.
Right. And we didn't go to school together, but it was just our friend that happened to know these people. I mean, it's just kind of, it's completely accidental.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely was not intended, but I think even before we were good, I think it was like a thing of, like I said, being in that environment, because we were friends with all these people who were not metal musicians, right? Like New Brunswick was really known at the time as being, you know, having like this artistic environment. So you know, funk bands and jam bands and jazz bands, like it was so. And even before we were a good band, just the idea that it was like black dudes playing metal, people were like, oh, that's pretty cool, man. That's pretty cool. Like we knew there was something kind of cool about that idea. And a lot of people go, man, didn't it kind of bum you out that when you guys came out, people that's all they would talk about? I'm like, it's better than talk about nothing. I mean, it's better to have something notable about you than no hook at all, or nothing that makes you stand out. So I don't really take it that way. I think for a long time we struggle with like image or marketing. And I remember I was talking like Rob from Chimera, and he's like, I know your image. Like, you guys are the living color of metal. He's like, that's just what it is. And I'm like, hey, whatever, cool me.
How old are you when you start jamming, like doing shows and stuff with God Forbid?
Well, like I said, we didn't become God Forbid until 98. We had a couple different names. We had a different singer. Like, we were called Manifest Destiny, and Byron was playing bass.
Okay.
And this dude, Robbie, was singing. And then we did like a couple shitty demos. And then we were getting ready. What's that?
You do shows?
I think we played one show. We played at the Court Tavern. And the only review I got from my dad was, "You were out of tune." And the show was so, it's funny. We were so bad at the show. And it was like, so we played for like 8 people, whatever.
Right.
We were so bad at the show. We didn't like talk to each other for like 6 weeks. We just like this.
You fucked that one up, man. No, you fucked that up.
No, we weren't mad at anyone individually.
For sucking.
We weren't even mad. We were just like, it was just kind of like a pursuit. Like, you're doing a thing as a hobby, and you're like, you got a little too above your kind of pay grade by thinking you could do a show, and you were just uninspired. But then we just kind of kept reaching out to Corey. Hey man, you want to jam? So we just kept jamming. And then every time we'd get to a point, we'd like record a demo and would just get slightly better. Yeah. And then we were getting ready to do another demo. And at the time, Byron had left the band to go to recording school in Ohio. And we had this female bass player who Dallas was dating. And then the singer, Robbie, didn't want to go because we were going to get to, actually, I forgot to set this up. Byron invited us to go do a free demo at his recording school in Ohio.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't set that up. The singer didn't want to go, and we ended up getting an argument, and he beat up the whole band.
Oh my God.
Except me, because I wasn't in the room. I just remember I came in, I'm like, damn.
I'm not good.
I was like, man, it looks rough in here.
Hilarious.
But anyway,
so you're like, fuck this motherfucker. We're gonna get Byron's thing.
No, we just said, fuck it, we're going anyway with no singer. And then and while we're there, Byron ended up singing on 1 or 2 songs, and then Corey actually sang on a couple songs. He was rapping like Tupac. It was hilarious. Okay. And then but it was funny. We actually listened to it. What's that?
I said, oh boy.
Yeah. I mean, I gotta fucking find that shit. But but the band was getting better. It was actually, we listened to it like, man, it's actually pretty cool. And then we heard Byron. We're like, man, he actually sounds kind of sick. And right around that time, Dallas and his girlfriend were kind of beefing. There's a lot of drama, and she ended up leaving the band. And Beaker had jammed with us one time, but it didn't really gel. And when she left, or the prospect of her leaving, we called him back up because Beaker went to high school with Corey and Byron.
Okay.
He came back and jammed, and it was just like he had been practicing, and he was just a lot more locked in. And then basically Byron got pulled over and got a ticket for like speeding, and he was so mad. And within one rehearsal, we wrote this song that became the first God Forbid song. It was called Mind Eraser. And it was just so like, it was just faster and angrier. And like, and around that time that Dallas had this name, God Forbid. He's like, yo, if I ever had a death metal band, I'd call it this. And the band was just getting heavier and faster. And we're like, all right, God Forbid, that's the name. And apparently Dallas said he was telling people our band name was God Forbid even before we had decided. So it's kind of like when John joined the band, and then this kind of like, I don't know, just this thing of like, no, we're fucking doing this style. Like, we kind of had come into our own, and then we were finally kind of technically skilled enough to be impressive that when we actually went out and did a demo and heard these songs, were like, it was the first time people were actually visibly impressed with what we were doing. When I was like, but it was very slow, man. And it's funny now I think about it, it's really only the course of like 3 years, but it feels like forever from Sucking to being kind of good. And then by the time we did our first record, like real record, then when we finished it, it was like, oh no, we're actually really good.
Yeah.
You know, and like we sent that in and like immediately got an offer to sign to Century Media Records, like before the record was even out, you know. But it was like, it's so weird. Like,
how old are you at this point?
Now I'm 41.
No.
Oh no, when that happened, I was 19.
Yeah. Have you had sex yet? Have you been laid yet at this point?
Yeah, I didn't lose my virginity until I was 18. You know, I was
like, right. So God forbid's already going.
Yeah, but I had been with like one girl at that point, or maybe two.
And it wasn't a groupie from a God forbid show.
No, it was my girl I had a crush on in high school, but we didn't start dating until actually after I graduated.
Okay.
You know, I do everything late in life. I got my I got my driver's license late. I'm very like Arrested Development person.
Lars Ulrich has a theory that the reason that people are so enamored with the Black Album or Master of Puppets is because they lost their virginity to that record. That's his theory. When you sell that many records and you can't explain why you continue to sell that many, you've got to like actually think about things. Why is this record still selling 7,000 copies?
Because it's that good.
Fucking week, you know. But so he ponders these things and he says that it's because people, you know, lost their virginity to it. What song, if there was a song, did you lose your virginity to?
I don't remember. I don't remember the experience very much at all.
Was there a movie playing or
don't remember
music? No,
I don't remember. I really don't. It's not. Yeah, I don't. I just remember it being like kind of. I don't know. Just I feel, especially when you're 18, right? Like it's something you build up in your head, and I think I had this almost, which I think is probably fairly common, where you're equally fearful as you are wanting the thing. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it feels like a different phase of life, you know.
Are you drunk? Are you high? Are you sober? Yeah.
No, this is before I think I was even really I wasn't really into any of that stuff on that level at that point. But no, it's my first girlfriend, Jane, and we're still really good friends.
Right on.
It's like she's one of my, like, you know, close, it feels like extended family, basically.
Awesome.
And yeah, she deflowered me. You know.
That's a really nice way of putting it. I'm gonna have to start asking it like that. At what song did you get deflowered to?
Yeah, well, she was younger than me, which is kind of but it worked because she was like I said, I went to this private school, but the school was small. There only 100, you know, like 30, 40 people went to the school. So in my grade, there's like 25 people or 28 people. So you don't have like a big social circle to actually draw from. And she was like the one girl that looked goth and listened to Marilyn Manson and was into like punk and, you know, and yeah. And, you know, like I said, we're still good friends to this day.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And I think that's a beautiful thing, you know, that certain connections that you have even when you're really young speak to like, oh no, we still have like a lot in common and we have compatible personalities and we care about each other like on a broader level than just romance, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. You've had a hell of a career, Doc, you know, like going through all this time. Like, it's like, I didn't realize how long you've been doing this. Like, I know because we were touring, you know, at this point, 18 fucking years ago on Ashes and, you know, all that. But like, you know, it's a long time. It's fucking a hell of a career you got, man.
I mean, it's kind of all I know in a weird way, even though I did have, you know, a period, I'd say from like 2010, 11 to like, even I'd say to like maybe 2018, I guess a lot of the 2000s where I wasn't touring full time. I actually had to learn how to be not a musician, like learn how to exist in the world, working different jobs and being adaptable. It was actually really beneficial because I think I became institutionalized by the environment. Like I was dependent on needing the road or needing validation or whatever goes with that lifestyle. I need that excitement and stuff. And I had to actually learn how to be a domesticated person. You know, I was lacking a lot of life skills.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you were pretty young. How old were you guys yeah, you were probably 25 or something when we were on the road together in 03. Yeah. So like you go from pretty much like right out of high school into being in bands and then touring and touring and touring and touring. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. But I loved it. Like it was like when we met you, I actually was 23 going on 24.
Okay.
But that's when you're talking, we had already been touring for like 2 or 3 years before that, but like constantly and have never being able to break through, never getting to the point we wanted to. So when we met you, it was like we were having our breakthrough moment with Gone Forever, and we're getting tours like that. We have Ozfest lined up, and it finally felt like this thing was going to happen. And then when it started to happen, you're just like, this is everything I always wanted. And you want to keep it going, continue it. And it was this weird thing where simultaneously as we put out our next record, Constitution, which I think it was maybe even a better record, and we had even more opportunities, and the band was finally getting this point that was almost like the beginning of the end in a weird way, unbeknownst to us, like because of all these different things. But I had this thing in my gut of just like I need to keep this going. I need to keep the band on the road and so we can, and that was like this kind of attitude of desperation, that I think ultimately was something I had to like learn from in a way not to be, because I think a lot of the bands that did have success in our genre were the ones who were not desperate, who were really like, they let things more come to them and were like, I don't need to be on the road all the time. I don't need to be, like they had the ability to like have a job at home or have other professions or other things. So that was something I had to work through and figure out, like doing it right out of high school and having nothing else to fall back on meant I was like, I have to do this. And so there were some downsides to that as well.
There was a period there where you were managing bands and you were doing Vegas Nerve. And I remember you giving me, I actually liked the Vegas Nerve. That was some good stuff. Kind of muse-ish, I guess. I don't know if that's what you're going for, but you had some good jams.
Thanks. Yeah, and I've tried to do more stuff with that band. That was kind of when I moved to LA.
You relocate to LA.
Yeah.
You got any funny Ozfest stories? That must have been a fucking blast.
Man.
I mean, that must have you probably can't even tell half of your Ozfest.
I mean, dude, I had this crazy time hanging with, it was so weird.
What year is that? Is that 06?
No, same year we toured, 04.
Okay, 04, gotcha.
Literally our 04 was Machine Head tour, got Ozfest Machine Head tour. Yeah. That was our 2004. But man, I mean, dudes, I remember this the first day, like me and Mark Morton sitting there at the soundboard watching Black Sabbath and just like both literally just shaking our heads like, how do we, because dude, we had played in a fucking garage with Burn the Priest.
Oh, wow.
6 years earlier.
Wow. That's a long time. Holy shit. I didn't know you guys went that far back.
Yeah. I mean, we went that far back with all those bands. I mean, we played with, like 98, 99, played with Unearthed, played with Throwdown, played with Every Time I Die. All those bands we had come up together, Darkest Hour. So it was just, and thinking that we never would, like, I remember going to Ozfest 01, 02, seeing like Third Strike and like,
right. And like they opened with us too one time. Like, it's just like, what's going on?
Yeah. I'm like, I don't even remember all the bands, but
they filmed a video for $350,000.
I believe it.
I was like, 300? You could buy a house for that. Like, that's crazy. Like, Metal Militia in there. I was like, whoa. Yeah.
I mean, Moto Grader and shit like that, right? And you're like I'm thinking, we'll never be on a tour like this. Like, this isn't even our world. Like, even the fact that I remember when it was like Hatebreed, I think Hatebreed and Meshuggah were and like Down were like the kind of heavy bands, and
Right, I remember that.
but they seemed like the outliers on the tour. They didn't seem like the rest of what was going on. So the fact that we were there, it was just like mind blowing. I just remember, I don't even remember what we said, but just kind of cheersing our beers or something, going like, damn, man, this is, just a smell the roses moment.
Are you guys just getting fucked up at the Jaeger booth every day?
Every day.
Like all day, every day.
Here's what you got to say. This is only our second time on a tour bus. And it was the first time we ever had our own tour bus. It was the first time we had a full crew. Like, it was the first time I ever had a guitar tech. We brought Willie G on tour with us. And all our off dates were with Slipknot, Slayer, Hatebreed playing arenas.
Holy fucking crap.
And it was 2 months. And it was 2 months.
So that was the headliners was Slipknot, Slayer.
Yeah, and we no. The main stage was Sabbath, Judas Priest reunion tour.
Oh right. Okay.
Slayer.
I went to this. Yeah.
Dimmu Borgir, Superjoint Ritual, Zakk Wylde. Second stage was Slipknot.
Okay, gotcha.
Hatebreed, Lamb of God, and then all the side stage bands.
Right.
But we got to live our fantasy. We're like, oh, this is how a normal band, this is what is normal for them, right? Just be on a bus and have a crew and literally, and all we would just get hammered every day. Like, I remember one time I think it's the first time it's ever happened to me where I got hungover in the middle of the day. but I like blacked out, but I was messing with like fucking Beatty from Hatebreed, and I think he like dirt slammed me or something, or like hip checked me, or threw me in like a pile of boxes, and I was just like, and I just felt like a jerk off, and I was just like, and I just went back to my bus and literally had a hangover in the middle of the day. I'm just like I'm like, I need to regulate myself. But I was doing mushroom, like I would hang with Dez from Devil Driver, and there was these like chocolate mushrooms, things. And I remember I was doing that like every day, but I never really got that high. I was just like, it was just, you had nothing to do but just hang out and just be like, yo, I'm on Ozfest.
Right.
And that same day, the day you gave me the mushrooms, I was on this golf cart. It was like Paul Gray was driving, and it was John Berkland and Jeff Kendrick from Devil Driver, and we drove down and we went to go hang out with Zakk Wylde, and Zakk Wylde was just telling crazy ass stories, and I'm just sitting there, I'm like, this is fucking crazy. And Zakk Wylde was like, and then he starts talking about Aerosmith, and he's like, man, Aerosmith needs to give it up. He's like, it's like Barry Sanders, the football player. He's like, he was at his peak and he gave it up. He's like, but Emmett Smith, he keeps trying to go after these records. He needs to give it up, just like Aerosmith. And then he looks at me, he goes, it's like me and you, brother. He's like, if we were doing something, and we're doing it for years. He's looking me right in the eyes, right? He's grabbing me, for years. And so you know what? We did it. I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this dude is talking about, but I'm like, that's right.
I don't know what the fuck this dude's talking about.
I was like, I'm hanging out with Zakk Wylde, and I was stoked. Shit like that.
He's a drinking Zach too, right?
Oh yeah. He was looking diesel. Arm looked like football, just crushed. But I think he only drank beer. I don't think he did liquor. But
I don't think he ever did drugs either.
Good for him.
I don't think. Yeah, that's very hard for me to imagine.
Dude, I was just psyched, just to be there. But it's just weird.
I bet you come home from Ozfest and you lose your girlfriend.
I didn't have a girlfriend.
Oh shit. You were single and ready to mingle.
Yeah, I was mingling. I actually had like an on-tour girlfriend, kind of.
Okay. She was part of the Ozfest tour.
Like, with the carnival people and stuff.
Okay,
she was super sweet. But what's funny? We made because we took we probably took, I don't know, $200,000 in money, or $250 from Central Media. We had to sign another record just to be able to get the tour support.
You had to get tour support.
Yeah, and the only money we made, so we got paid no money on the Ozfest shows, and we're probably making like $250. Yeah, because you had to buy on,
right?
And then we probably
buy on. You had to buy on too.
I think every band bought on the second stage except for OTEP, because I think OTEP was cool with the Osbournes or whatever. I could be wrong about that. I don't know, but but every minute 75 grand, right? And then you have to pay to travel.
Flying on for 75 grand, and then pay for your travel and your bus and
we were probably making $200 on our off days or something. And so in the budget, our per diem was $10 a day, $70 a week. That's the only money we made.
And then you're selling merch, but then there's the 40% overhead from the venue and all that stuff.
Yeah, I don't even remember what happened with that money or where it went or whatever, but it was pretty hilarious. But dude, it was
fucking great
at that time. But that's what I'm saying. Like,
that was a big thing too. I mean, that was the way you set up a band back then.
Dude, and the thing about God Forbid
is huge.
No, but the thing about God Forbid was we're on tour with all these bands.
Yeah.
And you get the scans every week. And we were in the upper tier of bands selling records,
right.
On that tour. And that was really encouraging because you're out there, it's the same playing field. And you're going, man, the band is connecting. All of a sudden, we're selling 1,000 records a week or whatever it was. And you could see the impact of you play the show, people get into the band, they buy your record. It was very tactile and the band went from selling, 20,000 records to 60,000 records. And it was pretty much Ozfest. And so it just felt like it was working and it was worth it. And it put the band in a different stature. And yeah, it was great, but it was also, the downside was it kind of, I think, it spoiled the band. It made us think, because when you're playing with Slayer every day, you start thinking you're Slayer or you're on that level, and it's you're not really at that level. And especially you're in the bus, you're like, well, we need to be in the bus now because we're this. We need a guitar, but the band hadn't,
right.
We weren't big enough in terms of drawing tickets and selling tickets to warrant that.
Right.
So in some ways, it kind of set us up for disaster in some ways because we start feeling ourselves. But it's funny because our unrecouped money to Century Media, I'd say 90% of it is Ozfest and the tour we did with you guys in Europe.
Yeah, right.
Because we had to take, I think, 60 grand or something to do that tour.
Oh my gosh.
Or something like that, because it was 10 weeks.
It was a huge tour. It was really long.
And, I think we're making $500 or something like that. So, the expenses and that just everything. It's expensive to fucking tour. It just is,
man. It is. And you guys had a bus that night, that tour too, right?
Yeah. But, and we shared it with Caliban, and it was
right, Caliban.
Yeah. And we had this really shitty bus. And then we ended up, the driver ended up leaving. Everyone was arguing with the driver. It's no one would help me. No one helped me. And then we ended up getting rid of that bus, and we got a sick bus for the rest of the tour.
Okay.
Yeah. Then our lives improved.
Yeah. I mean, you think about that too. That's a lot of money to borrow from your label.
Yeah. I mean,
all that touring and stuff. And the thing is, you probably couldn't get that now. There's no fucking way anybody would get that much money now to go on tour.
No,
a metal band selling 20,000 records and fucking them investing $250,000 in tour support.
But if you think about it, though, we never. If you were to look at the impact, right, of okay, you're going to play in front of on Ozfest, you're going to play from anywhere from 2,000 to 6,000 people for 2 months.
Yeah.
There was no other way to get that kind of exposure.
Yeah. And same with Machine Head.
Machine Head, yeah.
Some big shows on that fucking tour.
We're playing from anywhere from 1,000 to 4,000.
5,000.
5,000, right?
Yeah.
And any given day, you're covering all these markets that most bands don't even go to, right? Unfortunately, in Europe, they didn't really handle the product management side and marketing side to actually tie it together to really get the impact. And so we were kind of going there with one arm tied behind our back. But in America, they were invested. It works. But if you look at those two records, and we never took that much money for anything else ever again because we didn't need to. The point is to invest that money, and then now the band has a decent guarantee, and you don't have to take tour support, or you take 5,000 for this or 10. Look, you're taking smaller amounts of money where it makes sense, but it's about an initial big investment. And dude, those two records, Gone Forever and Constitution, each sold about 100,000 records.
Yeah.
Now,
fucking good. Those are good
No, that's retail, right? So if you have 2 records that sell 100,000 albums and they're retail is selling for $7,
Yeah.
that's $1.4 million. So they made their money back.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck yeah.
You know, so
yeah, totally. It's worth it. You know, I mean, I remember when we got the Slayer tour, we were getting paid $250 a night. You know, like, and it's like we had to borrow hella tour support. We had to buy into their catering. Like that was one of the deals. Like we had to split the catering with them. But you know, you just do it because you're like, fuck it. Like this is what we need to do.
Well, I look at it, it's like a college loan, right? You got to take the hit so that you can get yourself to a level where you can actually make the money. And it's like, to me, it sucks now that we're still unrecouped. And so we're not seeing royalties on those records. But at the end of the day, it's like, we signed the deal. If we didn't sign the deal, where would it, God forbid, have been?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably not anywhere. Or it wasn't like there was some other better deal out there.
Yeah. And this is like, you know, it's hard to imagine this, but this is like before MySpace. This is before Facebook. This is before pretty much all social, maybe message boards exist.
Well, you know. MySpace was coming out right around
probably 04. It probably would have been coming out right around midnight. Just breaking though.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I think Friendster started in 03.
Okay.
And MySpace was right after that. By the next year, if you were one of those bands that was ahead of the MySpace curve, you capitalized.
Yeah. Anyway, this has been a great conversation, and we're almost at 3 hours here. 2 hours and 40 minutes.
We ain't fucking around.
Yeah, we ain't fucking around.
Me and you can do this all day, though.
Podcast pros. Fucking podcast pros, goddammit.
Well, it flew by.
Yeah, dude.
For me, at least.
This has been a fucking great conversation, man. Like, this is awesome.
Thank you.
And thank you for being so open with so much of your life and so much of your opinions and stuff like that. You know, a lot of times people are like, oh, like, I don't want to talk about that. Or they'll say something and be like, oh, can you remove all that and this and that? It's just like, you know, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. Like, where you're like, I had a great guest on just recently, and he, I'm not going to name any names, but he didn't want to talk about the first time he got laid. And I was just like, oh my God. And it was like such a great story. It was like to Slayer. I was just like, dude, I was like, this is so good. Like, why do you want to take this out? But yeah, but you've been an awesome guest, man. And
thank you, man.
It's been great catching up. We haven't caught, I mean, we've caught up here and there, but it's been about like other stuff and, you know, just to kind of shoot the shit and reminisce and remember some of those tour times and all that. It's been fucking awesome, man. Like, it's really brought back just a ton of memories from all you guys. I hope Dallas is doing better. You know, I always loved Corey and Byron and Beaker, and, you know, like, it's got a lot of fond memories in my mind right now.
Yeah, man. Listen, we've all been fortunate to, whatever you say about our lives, they've definitely been unique. Not too many people can say they've kind of traveled this path and also be kind of part of history to whatever degree that means, you know, to kind of just, you know, you were there for the scene that only you could have been there for. And I was there for the things I could have seen and go, and you have a first person view of that, and it'll never come back. Right. It was that moment, special moment in time. And all we have is our memories and this great music. And that's it, you know, and it's very, very cool and very special. And I'm just lucky that even have someone like you just as a mentor, as a friend, is still kind of mind blowing to me. And so I'm just happy to still be here, because I know how easy it is to not be doing this or not be a part of this community. So,
right. Totally. Well, thanks for that, man.
Cheers. Thank you for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that right there, the mighty .coyle, God forbid bad wolves.
No fucking regrets.
With Robb Flynn.